Okay, now we're kicking off now. Quote for the day. I love this. The best place to hide a dead body is page 2 of Google. Evan's going to explain how to keep out of that territory. Okay, he is the CEO of First Page Sage. Brilliant name. It's the nation's largest SEO firm. Chris walked in here and already figured out that he was working with one of your buddies at Sweatwater. He is the author of 3 books on SEO and thought leadership marketing, and one of the books is called Outsmarting Google. Great name. Under his tutelage, clients have established industry-leading businesses. His list of clients: NBC, USA Today, Fortran. Sorry about that. Penguin Books, Verisign, Logitech, etc. He's been in all the top networks and business publications. Somebody grab me a thing of water. He was Vistage's top new speaker of the year in 2015, and he's in a Vistage group. Okay, one of the pioneers of modern SEO. He used his ability, thanks so much, he used his ability to rank at the top. And this is great, this is all on film. Oh, thank you. Okay, he used his ability to rank at the top of Google to build and sell 5 internet businesses in the 2000s, including one of the largest children's websites. What was that?
That was called Cartoon Doll Emporium.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm turning you over to my buddy Evan.
Thanks, Fred, and thank you guys for having me here today. As Fred said, I'm a really big fan of Vistage because the first time I ever gave a Vistage speech, afterwards the group asked me to join their group, and that's how I became a member 5 years ago, and it's been a tremendous part of my learning. So, because I'm often in your seat and listening to a speaker, I find it to be particularly helpful to hear a little bit about the speaker's background, hear the story of how they got to be standing here and why they deserve to be standing here. So my story starts when I was 17 years old, writing my college admission essay, hoping desperately to get into Columbia University. So I grew up in Long Island, Great Neck, Long Island, as I was saying to some folks here, and there was a lot of pressure on me from both sides of my family. My mom's side, my dad's side. We're a Jewish family. There's a really strong emphasis on education in my family. And it was clear to me from a young age that I had essentially 2 career paths in life. I could become a doctor or a lawyer. And so I worked very hard to get good grades and be able to even consider a school like Columbia, but there was actually 2 small problems with getting into Columbia for me, which were my grades and my SAT scores. They were not bad. They were just the very bottom of the range that you need to get into Columbia. So that meant that there was extra pressure on my essay. The essay is the one part of the application where you get looked at as a human being for a moment. It's not just numbers that somebody's like basically a machine is going through to even decide whether you're going to be in the yes pile, or the maybe pile, or the no pile. So I had this one really inspired evening that I will never forget. I was with my dad, and I basically stayed up all night, and I wrote this college admission essay that I thought could be the one that got me into Columbia. It was very creative. I was really into poetry as a 17-year-old. So I put some of my original poetry within the essay, actually like glued different colored lines of verse that I had written and put little arrows showing where you follow the lines of verse. So it was just very unique. And I was excited about it. My dad loved it, and I brought it into my English teacher the next morning. And I go, check this out. Tell me what you think. And she reads it, and she comes over to me slowly, and she goes, Evan, you can't submit this to Columbia. This is a collage. It is not the format that is required. It needs to be 500 words on a sheet of paper. And I was like, oh, man. So I brought it back to my dad, and I said, basically, my English teacher hated it. And she told me to start over from scratch. And he said, you know what, son? I think this is one of those times in life where you need to ignore the authority. I think you need to submit that essay exactly the same way that you wrote it, And frankly, I think if you don't take a big risk like this, then you don't have any chance of getting into Columbia. And I was like, thanks, Dad, for your confidence, but I thought he was right. I got this sense like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so I submitted the essay exactly as I had written it, glue and all, to Columbia, and I waited. I applied early admission. Several months passed, and about a month before I was set to find out whether I was going to get into Columbia, I got a call from somebody who I had never spoken to before, who identified herself as my admissions officer at Columbia. She said, Evan, I'm calling to ask your permission to use your essay as an example of the ideal college admission essay for the class of 2003. Wow. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, of course. You can use my essay. Does this mean that I got in? She goes, you know I can't tell you that. And I was like, oh. And she goes, welcome to Columbia. It was a really cool thing. I mean, 2003 was back in the day where nobody found out in any other way other than getting like either a large envelope in the mail or a small envelope. So it was really, really cool experience. And it so deceived for me. It told me I was good at something. And I think when you're in high school and college, at least for a lot of the folks that I grew up with, you don't really know what you're good at until much, much later in life, like well into your working years. But for me, this was like an early preview into something I was good at. Now, how do you use something like writing personal essays in a career later in life? But it sowed a seed for me. And 4 years passed, and I went to law school for a bit, and finally decided that I wanted to start my own business. Now, nobody in my family is entrepreneurial. My mom's a teacher, my dad's a dentist, and it was kind of a brand new thing for me to do, to start a new business. And I knew I wanted to start a business, but not what type. But one day it hit me that there's one thing I know I'm good at, and that's the college admission essay. So I started a private consulting company, essentially. That was just me, where I would help people with their admission essay. I would just do like a few-hour kind of workshop with each individual student. And I had no money at that time, so what I would do is I would try to figure out novel ways to get customers. And that's when somebody turned me on to this idea of SEO, or search engine optimization, which was this mysterious art of getting your website to appear at the top of Google's natural unpaid search results. And I got this idea that if I kept writing really interesting content on my website, then people would come to it. So I created the first college guide that was ever published online, where I went through the top 100 schools in the country, and I wrote a personalized guide to how to write the admission essay for each school. It's pretty similar for each school, but I did it so that I would really segment my audience. And it turns out that doing that works very, very well for SEO. So before long, I was able to hit #1 on Google, and it took about 8 months actually, for my keyword college admission essay, which to me was like the holy grail. If we were #1 for college admission essay on Google, then customers would come. And the day that we hit it, nothing happened. But about a week later, the phone finally rang, and this woman calls up and she says, Evan, I hear you're the expert on college admission essays. Would you help my son with his essay? And I go, absolutely. Oh my God, someone thinks I'm an expert. I mean, I thought I was an expert, but Google has now anointed me, so I must really be now. And that just started a whole flurry of calls. Pretty soon I had so much business, I was able to hire employees, and I had a real business going. And it was then, you know, as it was really going, and I was starting to make money for the first time in my life, it occurred to me that I could really start any business I want because I had the power of Google's algorithm in my pocket. So I just started coming up with ideas that were related to things I was interested in. One of my admissions clients asked me to help write a book, so I helped write a book for them. I ghost wrote a book, and then I realized that there could be a whole business in writing people's books for them. I didn't even know that that was legal at the time, and then I was like, oh yeah, ghostwriting is a totally legit thing. So I started the country's first ghostwriting company, and that grew to become a pretty big company, and just because I could optimize to get to the top of Google, we had tons of customers. We had all these celebrities. We wrote books for a number of A-list celebrities and all down the line. And that just started taking off, and pretty soon I was starting a new business every month with the power of SEO because I could really just go into any business and get customers instantly. So I started 8 businesses in the 2000s. 5 of them were financially successful. I sold those 5, and one of them was the largest kids website, or is the 4th largest kids website in the world for about 3 years. So that all resulted in me realizing that I didn't want to just go business to business to business. It's not really something that you can be passionate doing. I was just trying to acquire money. I was trying to flex my muscles as a young business person. And when I sold the kids website, I kind of did all the things that you dream of doing. I bought my mom a house, and I started a charity, which I still give 10% of my income to every year. And I decided that I would try to focus on one business, maybe the one that I was potentially best at. And that's when I started First Page Sage, which has been around for now 10.5 years. And it's a SEO and thought leadership marketing company. Essentially, we're writing weekly articles that target keywords in order to generate leads for companies. And we've grown to become the largest SEO company, that's what we're saying, in the United States. And I love the company. I finally found something I actually enjoy, because what I focus on is the culture. That's the thing that I'm particularly passionate about. Besides the product and being the best, because I'm kind of obsessed with excellence, the other side of that is I love to take great care of my team. So we have a really strong culture. We're an all virtual company, which a lot of people don't associate with culture. We've got about 120 full-time employees. But everybody there has a strong sense of belonging and community, and we have weekly virtual happy hours. We have get-togethers in different cities. Oh yeah, I mean, when we had our first baby a year and a half ago, they threw me a whole surprise baby shower where everybody arrived by Zoom. So it's pretty amazing what you can create online. But I'm finally really happy doing what I'm doing, and I'm in a company where it kind of works. So I found my niche. And that's when people started telling me, hey, you should try giving a talk to Vistage. It's this organization of CEOs. And 5 years ago, that's how I got to start doing this. And that's why I'm standing here right now. So I am now going to go into my presentation. Now, my presentation is basically everything I've learned about SEO up until this point. That's pretty much all I think about during the day. I've been doing this, again, formally 10.5 years, but SEO has been 15 years, my whole career. As I speak, if there's anything that you have a question about, or you've heard something different and want to challenge me, you can interrupt me anytime. This is not me talking at you. Actually, I was for the last few minutes, but this is the end of that portion. And I've also reviewed each of your websites individually, so I have a sense of how you're doing SEO-wise to every company in this room. And I'm going to be critiquing your websites live today. And if I know you're thrilled about that, but if there is anything you want me to go into specifically, it's probably useful to other people, so we can go down whatever rabbit holes we want. Okay. So, we'll begin with just the basic concept of SEO, which I call thought leadership marketing, because SEO, a lot of people think of as just doing some technical things to your website. If you do technical things to your website to make it search engine friendly, that gets you like in the race, but it's not really important to be in the race. You have to be at the front of the race or on the first page, as the quote earlier today said. So this is how I think about it. We all have a website, and we want people to come to our website. People come to our website for many different reasons. They've heard of the business, they are on social media, they see it through advertising. But when people come to our website, we call those people traffic. Now, when people come through Google, the unpaid portion specifically, the Google search results that made Google a famous company, then we call that process SEO, or search engine optimization. And search engine optimization is essentially the art of getting your website to rank highly in the natural search results for a given keyword phrase or search query that somebody who buys what you sell would type in. We don't care about the people that just want to look at what you're doing. We care about potential customers, pretty much only, perhaps press we care about, or employees or business partners only. So I'm kind of fascinated by what causes Google to promote your website to the top of the natural search results, and what causes people to then click on your search result besides it being high up, and basically attract people over to your website. That is what we're going to spend the bulk of this presentation talking about, how you rank highly on Google, how you appeal to Google's algorithms, because Google is very, very artificially intelligent, and their entire business model is based upon people finding exactly what they were looking for when they got to the search results. Meaning they click on a website and they say, that is a perfect answer to my question. If people constantly clicked on Google search results and said, oh, that's spam, or that's not really helpful, the Google brand would decrease. And there was a time in, I think it was 2008 through 2010, where there was a lot of spammy blogs and poor quality search results. I don't know if anyone even remembers that, but the Google search results quality was going down because of a lot of SEO firms and people that basically were trying to cheat the algorithm. Google basically got rid of that and put a lot of the SEO industry out of business in 2010. which was a really good thing for us Google searchers. So nowadays, they do a really excellent job of serving us a very relevant group of results for any search query we type in. And that's why Google has become like a utility in our lives. It's like our electricity or our water. We go to Google for anything that we want to look up. If we want to look up a service provider, a restaurant we want to go to, directions, anything, we trust Google that much. And if you think about it, the thing that is going to make Google happy is just providing answers to every search query that has to do with your industry and could drive revenue to your company. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So when people are on your website, okay, that's its own art, and I just talked a little bit about that. Something psychological needs to occur to make them say, I trust this organization and I would do business with them. Whether they came from SEO or social media or advertising. We call the art of converting people into customers from the website conversion optimization, or sometimes we call it customer or client conversion. So I'm going to spend a portion of time at the end of the presentation talking about that as well. So these are the two parts of the presentation. How to rank highly and get people on your website, and then how to convert them so that it turns into revenue. The point of SEO and all marketing is revenue. So that's what I'm going to focus on. I don't want to eliminate the possibility that attracting talent is very important as well, since that's got to be one of the most important things to everybody here in this room. But thought leadership marketing and SEO achieves both purposes, and I'll be speaking primarily about the revenue side. And if anyone wants to talk about the employee attraction, I'd love to talk about it too. Okay, so we defined SEO, and a search results page basically looks like this. I tried to just take the top of the page. There's 1 to 4 ads at the top, and then underneath the ads are the natural results that made Google famous, that differentiated it from Yahoo and the other search engines back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I'm curious how many people click on the ads at the top of the search results regularly. Okay. So a few people in the room. That's actually the most that I've ever seen. What it tells me, my constantly asking that question and seeing the results, it's never been half. The most I've ever seen is 3. Is that people that are sophisticated, there's a room full of sophisticated people, typically skip the ads. The reason we skip the ads, I think it's kind of obvious. We feel like people are paying to be there. We really want Google's opinion. So I couldn't say people don't click the ads, because clearly they do, because a lot of customers come from them. But there's a lot of people like myself that never click on ads. I don't want to click on an ad unless it feels like I specifically want to be sold to in that instance, and it's exactly what I typed in. There's a match on the ad. So studies have backed this up as well, which makes it very appealing to appear at the top of the natural search results. If your customers are sophisticated, especially in B2B businesses, and almost every business, not all of them are B2B in this room, then you should care a lot about the organic search results as opposed to advertising. And I think contrasting the two is a particularly good way to illuminate the value of SEO. So if you think about the proposition of advertising, it's essentially a form of interruption. I can't think of any form of advertising that isn't interrupting people when they'd rather be doing something else. Now, it is effective in many ways. If you keep bombarding people with advertisements, then some percentage of them will click and look at the advertisement. But I really believe in people wanting to look at something as a very powerful force. So think about the proposition of Googling something in contrast to the advertising proposition that I just put forward. You go to a one-page website with a box in the middle and a colorful logo at the top, and you type into that box anything that you are looking for, anything you're interested in at all. Within milliseconds, you get back a group of results that are very relevant and help you. So it's actually a pleasurable thing when we Google something. We like it. We get answers very, very quickly. So it is really beneficial to appear at the top of Google's natural search results because you're part of that sort of pleasurable equation. So that's why I use the word thought leadership synonymous with SEO, because I think of SEO as a form of thought leadership. And when I use the phrase, I don't mean to use a buzzword. What I mean by that is essentially appearing to be an authority or appearing very smart by publishing interesting things that cause people to respect your business more. And I think pure thought leadership has been around since like Confucius. That's like the oldest thought leader I can think of. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. And then as we get into like the early 20th century, Orson Welles on radio, Walt Disney on color television, it's like people that really defined a medium and became well known because of that medium. Now, when we get into the late 90s, people started finding information on the internet. And that's when search engines start to become popular, particularly Google in the very late 90s and especially the early 2000s. And it turns out that the businesses and the people that are the thought leaders today, many of them have very high search results, and that's how people discover the companies, especially in a B2B context. So that's why I use the phrase thought leadership marketing synonymously with SEO. Now, the interesting thing about thought leadership is not just that it's a powerful concept, but that it's something that influences all of us quite a lot, and we don't even know what's happening. So there are companies that publish thought leadership every year as part of big annual reports, and we respect it without thinking about the source of it very much. So for instance, Goldman Sachs and KPMG and all kinds of big accounting and financial related firms, they put out economic forecasts. They don't do this out of the goodness of their hearts, they do it so that you see their brand and you associate them with intelligent insights related to the economy. Vistage itself promotes its own thought leadership through the CEO Confidence Index that you guys have probably all received. I've received whatever it was like a few months ago. And that is so that when people are reading the Wall Street Journal, who I don't know if they still partner with the Wall Street Journal, but they did for many years, they associate Vistage with business growth. You know, they're reading about CEOs' confidence in the nation, and they see the word Vistage. So it's just a very good association, and people get branded that way. So not only is this something that happens all the time, but it's something that you can do in your own company, and that's the main thing that I want to talk about. But before I do, I actually want to mention my favorite, to me the most brilliant piece of thought leadership that I've ever seen, probably because of my background in college admissions. It's the U.S. News and World Report college rankings. So somebody in the late 1980s at U.S. News magazine decided that they would rank, the top 100 or 200 colleges in the country according to some arbitrary criteria that they just made up. And now it is the standard by which Harvard and Princeton and Yale sort of organize a lot of their activities. There are people that do not get into Harvard every year because Harvard is trying to admit slightly fewer people to keep their admissions rate low because now it's published as part of a criteria that somebody made up in the late 80s. And that means that somebody who would have gone on to a big consulting firm and perhaps became one of our politicians and influenced our lives didn't get to do that because of some random decision that was made in the 80s as part of essentially press. So I'm going a little far with that, but it really is true. The power of thought leadership is enormous. So there are a few different ways that I'm going to show you today that your company can publish thought leadership and have tremendous influence in your industry. So I go to a consumer example first because it's just very easy and accessible to understand. So we work
for us.
Oh yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
good. So this is a company they're a rare wine dealer, been a client for many years. And one of the first projects we did for them is we created a top 100 rare wines you can buy today list. Now, we did this because there was nobody else that had published a top 100, like a really, like a U.S. News and World Report college rankings style list of the best rare wines. Now, obviously, the best rare wines is kind of a silly proposition because it really comes down to taste and what type of grape you like and all these other factors. But we've really started to influence the rare wine market with this, and I know that because they do about $500,000 in e-commerce sales per month on a single page that, again, we created based on arbitrary criteria that the wine experts at this one company made up. And if you type in top rare wines, best rare wines, collectible wines, there are dozens of keywords related to the best wines out there. They're number one on Google and have been for many, many years. Because no one else did it, and we created high-quality lists with a different landing page for every wine. So they're bringing in a lot of revenue from it, and lots of people, I've seen articles about how some of these are top wines, and they're more sought after because of that. And these are just the wines that this company carries in their cellars. So it's a pretty astounding thing to realize how biased thought leadership can be. Now, I don't feel bad about this list, for instance, because these are some of the top wine experts they have. They have many really accomplished folks from some of the top magazines and stuff like that. So somebody has to have an opinion, but I just find it pretty incredible that you can sway opinions like that. So I'm going to give you an example of how we decide upon a piece of content like this, because a top 100 list is one of many, many forms of thought leadership. There are many content forms you can create. You can create a white paper, or an industry report, or a comparison list, or a long, thoughtful article, or a video. There's a lot of different options. But I want to give you one example so you see how my company goes through it, because this may be something you want to do within your own company. So I use a B2B SaaS company as an example. It's an identity and access management software product. So basically a product that helps you when your company's at a size that you need access control, so not everybody has access to sensitive data. So the first thing we start with is we usually start with a keyword, and we say, what's a keyword that we feel very, very confident is going to have revenue driving potential? So we go with the most obvious one here. The industry is called Identity and Access Management, or IAM. And we say that's the theme part of the keyword that somebody would type in. Now, how do we add, I want to buy something to that theme? And that's where we put in the word solutions. Solutions, product, software. We could have done any of those. Those are what we call the transactional part of the keyword. They don't really care that much about being number one, or they shouldn't, for identity and access management. But the moment you put solutions on there, it becomes valuable. And then we added top to the first part of the phrase. The reason we did that is because it makes it even more valuable, because somebody who is looking for the best piece of software to buy is probably working with a bigger budget. They're not just looking for, if somebody typed in cheapest, this would be a bad keyword for them. So top identity and access management solutions, I think we can all agree, is an excellent keyword. It's not the most popular keyword in the industry, but we don't care about that. We just want to know that this would pay for itself many, many times over, because it may take like a few $1,000s of effort to create the page I'm about to describe. So once we have that keyword, and even related to this keyword, you could put software and products. You could have many different keywords related to this, but I'm just taking this one example. We then say, what is the situation that somebody who is typing it in would be in? Who is that person, first of all? And for them, they know it might be a CIO or a CTO or a COO. And we think, what is their use case? What situation are they in? In this case, it's pretty obvious. They've already heard that they need a piece of software that performs this function, and they want to compare options. And we say that particularly because we know from doing this a long time that when someone pluralizes a phrase like solutions, it means they want to compare the best options out there or the options that exist. If they just typed in solution, singular, they'd probably just want a sales page for one product. So you can tell a lot about the searcher's intent by what they typed in, which is what a huge part of Google's business is based on. Google knows the subtle differences between what you mean when you type in different phrases. So now that we have a sense of what the person wants and what they typed in, now we have to answer the question that I find the most fun, because this is just something that I'm really inclined towards. And that is, how do we create the most compelling possible answer, the most satisfying result for somebody who typed that in? If somebody's looking to compare the options in this software space of identity and access management, to me, what they're looking for is essentially a Consumer Reports style comparison list that shows all the features of the software on the left-hand side, all the top softwares along the top, and then maybe a 1 to 5 star rating, since people tend to like that. So what do we create? Exactly that. Now, when people see something like this, they'd expect it to be in an objective industry publication like PC World or something like that. But when we create it and publish it on our client's own website, it gets to rank because Google knows that that is very satisfying to a searcher. So we are doing what Google likes because we're doing what people like, and Google promotes it. So we create this chart. Now, this chart is a biased comparison chart. The features we've chosen to put on the left-hand side are ones that put our product, Okta, in the best possible light. So
yours is Okta. Your client is Okta.
Yes, you can tell by all the check marks.
Oh, all the check marks.
Yes. So now it makes it more believable. Everything written here is true. These, if we were writing things that are not true, that's a totally different story. It's being published on our website, so it's essentially like an advertorial. But that's not the way people look at it, and it's not the way that Google promotes it, because we're providing real good information. Now, if it was another company, I'm sure VMware would love to create a different feature list that has all check marks for them. But it becomes a very valuable thing to have online, and almost nobody really does this because they say, well, I don't want to mention competitors. This is a rather bold move. I'm starting with one of the bolder pieces of content you can create. But if you don't create this, then you're essentially saying, I'm okay not ranking for this term, because you can't rank for this term with a sales page. You have to have a comparison list or something else that's very satisfying, because Google will only put that on the first page. If you type in a term like this, or any comparison term, you're going to only see thought leadership on the first page. Google doesn't just want sales pages. Yes?
Is there a sense in which this is a bit of perception, in the sense that you're pretending to be a thought leader, but you're actually providing a biased view of this product category. And Google's rewarding you for it, and your clients are making more money. But for the researcher, the user, it's not exactly treating them with good faith, is it?
Well, it's a bit of a complicated world out there. I think about that as well. So,
Not to be rude.
no, it's not rude. It's a great question that I think about as well. Because what I spend my time doing matters a lot to me, and I'm a very ethical person.
Right.
But I'm just fascinated by this art because we're in a world where even our news, can be skewed by the channel we go to and the subjects that are chosen to be written about. So my thought is, if it's published on the website that's selling the product, I hope that people have enough sophistication to understand that, especially because we're targeting C-suite executives, to understand that this is probably going to be something that makes our product look good. If we were publishing it, distributing it to the New York Times, I would not do this. I would not feel comfortable with it.
Right.
So that's the line that I draw.
You started off by saying that people don't like advertising, but they do like helpful content.
Yes.
But on some level, this is a bit like advertising.
It is, yeah. Well, yeah, but it's a little different in that it is actually educating you. Like there's real information in here.
In a biased way.
In a biased way, that's right. Yes, it is educating you in a biased way. So it is a form of sales. But to me, you find like the right balance when you're giving people genuinely interesting information that educates them on the industry. We'll often barely talk about our product. So this is like one of the boldest possible moves. That's what I'm starting with. But often, the most common thing we're doing for clients is we write 2 articles a week where we answer the questions in the industry and then genuinely just give them all the information they want and say, by the way, we do this for a living. If basically you were impressed by our knowledge, then we're here to sell you the product. And I do believe that people want to be sold to when they're typing in terms like this. They're looking to buy something. So I feel okay with it on that level too. Yes?
Okay, so almost anything could be good to a fault. You talk about doing this with products, non-products. So you put in Charlottesville, or Supreme, or Supremist. I've never done it. My guess is you're going to get some pretty nasty crap on some bad guys.
Yeah.
So how do you relate to that, and how does that affect what you do?
So when I was young, starting out in SEO, some people had heard of me and all these political campaigns were trying to get me to work for them. We did one project with a political campaign before I realized that it was not something I ever wanted to be involved in again, because that's not what I want to put out into the world. I think politics that's outside my area in terms of what's right and what's not, since there's so many different viewpoints. So basically, we're promoting mostly B2B companies' content to other sophisticated business owners, executives, and I feel comfortable sharing thought leadership in that way and putting out really interesting content. When it gets to stuff that could really affect people's lives in an immediately negative way, I don't need to do it. I'm not going to do it. It's not interesting to me.
My guess is there are companies or people out there that don't feel that way.
Yes.
And they grab onto that and go the wrong way.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it's Google's job to try to put news sources at the top that are the most ethical news sources. But yeah, when you get into like a darker area anyway, when you're particularly searching for it, maybe you don't even want objective information or more objective information. But yeah, that's a whole interesting, I think, dialogue for sure. Yeah. Any other questions on this? Okay. So I was talking about transactional keywords. And this is a list that we've created in my company. And by the way, I can send this presentation to Fred so that you guys have, okay, so you guys will have these exact slides. So this is just a list of all the words that people would put at the end of a phrase that would mean I would like to do business in some way. I want to buy something. And these words are what make a keyword valuable. You know, we were talking about this, David, a little bit before. What makes a keyword valuable? How do you choose a good keyword? What we do at the start of a campaign is we say, okay, for the 12 months ahead, let's pick 50 keywords and let's rank order them by how much value they have to the company. Usually that means revenue value, and that means usually we're going to start with keywords that mean somebody wants to immediately buy something. And then for each keyword, we just put them in a chart. We look at things like how competitive they are, how long it'll take to rank, and then what would be the perfect page and then the perfect content to put on that page that would satisfy the searcher's curiosity fully and therefore make Google promote it to the top, because that's again what Google looks for. So if somebody's typing in a direct sales related word, somebody types in change management consultant, then we want to produce a sales page, because that's what people are looking for. Now, if somebody typed in how to choose a change management consultant, which is a keyword as well, that's a completely different search where somebody's looking to do their own research and make their own decision, and then we help them through thinking about what change management consultants look like, what the landscape is, what questions you would ask them in an interview call. We go through that whole thing. If we just sell to people that are looking to do research, it's pointless, you're not going to rank. It's useless to even do it. So we do all that thinking, and that is how we come up with keywords. Usually 50 keywords is all we need for a year, and if we do that initial few weeks of planning, where we look at every keyword, decide its home in terms of the content page we're going to create, and then what would be the most interesting article, including graphics that we'll custom create, flow charts, tables, whatever it is. That to me is the perfect way to do SEO. So that's pretty much all we do, and you can do that inside your company once you know that this is what needs to be done. And this presentation is meant to clear away a lot of the murk in the SEO world, so the CEOs in this room and the marketing folks in this room know what should be created and done for your company. So the only other type of keyword that I find valuable besides very transactional phrases are terms that people type in when they're in a jam. Somebody types in like a DUI help or something like that. That is a very, very helpful term, even though it's not DUI lawyer, which is transactional. The word lawyer means I want to buy something. DUI help, or if somebody is looking up DUI laws or something, they're in a bind. So that is something that would be very interesting to think about for anyone doing SEO, is what are the keywords people type in your industry when they have an urgent need, if it is an industry where there's an urgent need. So when I kind of make the case for why SEO is so valuable, it may already be clear to you guys, but in case it's not, I like to use this kind of example. So this is an automotive parts manufacturer we started working with many years ago. And they started doing SEM, so Google advertising, pay-per-click advertising, at the same time as they began working with us, doing a thought leadership SEO campaign. And the first 12 months, they spent with us $105,000, and they made $886,000 in gross revenue. So the return on their advertising spend, as it's technically called, $781,000. So as far as a return from an SEO campaign, depending on what the value of a client is, assuming it's like $10,000 plus, which in most B2B industries would be the case, you want there to be a return of at least $500,000 in gross revenue in the first year. Otherwise, it's not really working that well, in my view. That you can absolutely do that unless the site is totally brand new and has no trust with Google, which I don't think was the case with any of the websites in this room. So the advertising campaign I found interesting because they made almost as much gross revenue, but they had to pay almost $700,000 to get it versus the $100,000. Now, obviously, I put this case study in because it shows how powerful SEO is, so that I'm sure people could find case studies of how well advertising performs. But since this was something I directly experienced, I just found it illuminating in the sense that advertising is very expensive, and it gets more expensive every year because Alphabet, that owns Google, is a public company with a duty to their shareholders, and essentially they need to charge the most that people are willing to pay so that they can make the highest profits. So I prefer not to be on the other side of that equation. The reason I like SEO is because it gives you the opportunity to use creativity and hard work instead of just purely spending as much as you're charged in a kind of ever-increasing fee kind of industry. And I've found that SEO has the highest ROI of any form of online marketing that I've seen. And I've looked at lots of different forms of online marketing. Now, to be clear, I find that having a great product and having people talk about it word of mouth is the most powerful form of marketing and is far better than SEO or anything else that I've seen. And there are other types of B2B marketing that do very well too. Some LinkedIn marketing can be very powerful. Going to industry conferences and giving talks is one of the most powerful things as well. But I found that as far as broad reach, you will not find much that has as good of a return as thought leadership-based SEO, which is why I've dedicated my career to it. So now I'm going to show you what it took me about 8 months of staying up all night to figure out, which is Google's algorithm. How does Google's algorithm actually function? So if we take a keyword, and we can take a keyword of someone in this room, maybe we can use swage lock. So fluid system components, perhaps, would that be a good keyword we could start with?
Yeah.
And then in your case, maybe Houston, because you're totally a geo-targeted company.
Right.
So if somebody goes to Google and they type in fluid system components Houston, those are 4 words that Google then kind of computes into its algorithm, and in milliseconds it will look through every page on every website on the entire internet, and it searches only the title of each page. Now the title of each page is something that is technically called a meta page title. You see a meta page title if you go to your browser on your computer and then just leave your mouse at the top tab right here, a little rectangle will pop up. It'll tell you the title tag of every page. Every page on your website has a different title tag. Many in this room do not have any customization of your title tag, which means you're not even in the running. CPAP and Inkjet have fantastic title tags, but you guys are the exception. And there may be one other that I'm forgetting right now. So this title tag is seen if you happen to roll your mouse over the top tab of your browser. It's also seen over here as the blue heading of every search result on Google. So that's how you know Google really values this random archaic piece of code called a meta title tag, because they make it into the bold blue heading of every single search result. They really care about it. It's actually the most important thing that you can put on your website is actually putting keywords into the titles of each different page on your site. So somebody types in fluid system components Houston, and they type it in, hit enter. In milliseconds, every page on the internet has been scanned, and only the ones that have those 4 words in any order are in a certain results set. And let's say it's like 600,000 results. Google then orders those 600,000 results from number 1 to number 600,000, where the number 1 result is the one that has those 4 words in any order in the title tag and has the highest trust level. So it's looking for contains those keywords first to even be in the running, and then highest trust level to get to the top of the list. Now I'm going to describe what trust level means in a moment, obviously, but that's basically the way that Google's algorithm works. I think of the trust level as like an old-style Olympic scorecard that you would hold up from like 0 to 10. It's actually like a many-digit integer, I'm sure, and nobody is able to see trust scores. That's a closely guarded thing. But you can actually tell a trust score relatively pretty well by seeing where a company ranks for the main keyword that they place in their title tag. You can see how trusted they are. So if on your homepage title tag, you type fluid system components Houston, for instance, if that were there, and you're number like 6 on the list, you could say this is the 6th most trusted site on the internet for those words, and therefore it has a relatively high trust score within that category. So relatively speaking, you can see how high your trust score is. So I think I've already made it clear, but if nobody in your company is customizing the title tags of each page on your website with keywords, you are not even in the running, and you don't have a chance of ranking on Google for anything other than your brand name. But if somebody has that there, then you need to earn trust. Now, in the world of Google, there's 2 ways to earn trust. The first is when other websites link to your website, a concept known as inbound linking. That's sort of like votes in an election. So Google is very smart in, this is how they differentiated themselves from Yahoo and all the other search engines that no longer exist. Those search engines' algorithms were based on how many times a keyword that somebody typed in was written on the page. So what you would see, and some of you may remember this, is at the bottom of websites in tiny like gray letters, there would be a keyword written like 100 times. That was the algorithm. If it was written many times, then Yahoo said, oh, it's very valuable, I'll put it at the top. Well, Google says that's not a reliable way to determine the value of a site for a particular keyword. A valuable way is whether many other websites, which other people can't control that easily, are mentioning that keyword and then linking to them, which feels like an editorial vote or a mention or something like that. It's much harder to get someone, a webmaster or whatever, to link to your website. It's kind of similar to the idea of if you want to belong to a lot of private membership clubs, golf clubs or something like that, you need like 5 recommendations from other members. It's similar to that, and that's a reasonably good way of vetting somebody. And that's what Google's doing. So that's one way to earn trust. The other way, which has become a bigger and bigger part of Google's algorithm as it's become better with spam control in the last 5 years, is publishing content and essentially acting like a news website. If you publish 2 or more pieces of content a week, every week, we have found you cross a certain line and you get treated like a news website. And even if you have very few links, you're able to rank at the top of Google search results. Because as far as Google's concerned, if you are serving your industry by creating dialogue and solving problems and answering questions, you deserve to rank highly. It's much better if you have links at the same time, but that's another way to earn a lot of Google trust and get a high trust score. So that's Google's algorithm. Any questions on that? Yes?
Yeah, when you say that, does that mean that you reference industry articles in your domain, you have press releases, or combinations of both?
You don't have to do either, actually. But, so press releases don't do anything positive for you. Press releases used to be very important in the world of Google because you put them on the wire and they go out to hundreds of different sources and they all link back, whatever links you have in the press release are now on other websites linking to you. It used to be like a secret way to cheat Google's algorithm that was used by almost every SEO company. It's not bad or anything because it's a natural thing people do, so Google doesn't penalize for it, but they consider that not an SEO signal. Any website that's part of a PR newswire or whatever that is associated with press release is not going to help. Mentioning other things happening in the industry is a good practice, absolutely. But you don't have to link out to other websites to do well with Google. It's only when other websites link into you that you earn trust. So you would probably want to be answering questions in your industry or writing about trends or future technology or whatever it may be in an interesting way such that other websites and blogs, journalists, want to link in to your website. That is how you earn high trust. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have a question.
Yes.
Would you call, well, just 2 questions real quick. Would you call what you described to him, like, is that what they would call backlinking?
Yes.
And that's less valuable today?
Yes.
Okay.
It's still very valuable, but it's much less in the last 5 years. Yeah.
And then how do customer reviews, Google reviews, tie into trust score, or is that a separate?
It's a little bit of a separate bucket within SEO. It's local SEO. So customer reviews are a very small part of the local SEO algorithm. What's more important, if you have a local business and you want to rank in the Maps results at the top, which is related to Google reviews, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, Google.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is when a lot of industry-focused websites like other kind of review websites or sites like Yelp or CitySearch or whatever, if they reference your name, address, and phone number written in the same way as it's written on the company website, references are more important. They're sort of the equivalent of links within the world of Google Local. Reviews matter, people linking into the website, so actual links matter, and then the keyword in your business name, if there is one, and then the description of your business matters as far as who gets the higher ranking in Google local search results. And distance matters tremendously, how far the person is from the business.
So is a Google review or a Yelp review more valuable in terms of someone searching?
Google review, since Google owns Google, and Yelp and Google don't even have a great relationship. But it's not that they're like specifically penalizing Yelp, but they'd rather take Yelp's 5-star reviews and put them into the Google search results so people can get quick information for free, something Yelp doesn't like, by the way. But a Yelp review, the reason it's not as valuable as a Google review is because when you create a Yelp page, since anyone can create a Yelp page for their business, the link that points from yelp.com over there is marked intentionally with a do not follow kind of tag, which means that it doesn't count towards your trust score. Google doesn't allow comments within popular sites like New York Times or whatever, comment boxes to count, and it doesn't allow LinkedIn, Twitter, any of the major social media sites links to count because it's like voting for yourself in the election, and they don't want that. So Google reviews are more valuable. YouTube, like somebody writes a review on YouTube, that matters because again Google owns YouTube. But that's a separate subject I can talk a little bit more about later if you want to just talk about local SEO. Yeah.
Real quick, paid linking to your site from like an association or a publication, industry publication, if there are links to your site from those, but you've paid for those, but they are built pages with links to your site, is Google going to differentiate any way, or are those valuable?
Well, they theoretically say any paid link does not count. If you're paying for it, then that's like paying for a vote. and they specifically say that paid links must be marked with a no follow tag, and so it should not count.
Okay.
However, industry association links, when you sponsor nonprofits and stuff, those are some of the best links out there. A lot of the time it's not clearly like you paid for it, and it feels like the type of natural vote of trust that Google was originally looking for when they created the algorithm. So they end up counting a lot. I think, because you're sort of combining two concepts with a question, which is industry sites linking to you, very good links, versus paid links. If you just in isolation say that term, that's not a good link.
And then lastly, this might be in the weeds a little bit, but video content on your site, if you're creating multiple pieces of content and you're embedding YouTube videos on your site as that content, is Google counting that video as new published searchable content?
They are, specifically on YouTube, because if you embed it on your website through the YouTube player, which you're probably going to, then it does count. But you have to know that when you create videos, that's not necessarily good for SEO. It's good for SEO insofar as people spend a long time on pages that have videos on them, and anything that keeps people on a page for a long period of time, that's a signal to Google that it's a valuable piece of content and it should be promoted. So that's good. But videos in and of themselves only are valuable for SEO if the search term associated with them is something that people would want a video for. So if you create a video, if you sell ties, and you create a video called how to tie a tie, somebody types that term in, Google knows a video is way better than an article on how to tie a tie. So therefore you're going to see videos populated within the search results, and creating videos therefore is a wonderful SEO tool. Most of the keywords in the businesses in this room would not benefit from videos directly, but videos would be valuable, and again, this is something David, we talked about a little bit before, would be very valuable because it would be a way of supplementing a larger article. It would be in the context of an article, and it would keep people on the page a long time, and therefore it would be a phenomenal strategy. But it's only within the context of engaging people. Okay, any other questions on this? And when would be a good time for a break? We can take a break now, 10 minutes. What do we think?
10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Okay, let's do 10 minutes. So I want to introduce the concept, which I've talked about a little bit already, of SEO landing pages. I think of almost every page on your website, other than maybe the home page or like a legal terms and conditions page, as a landing page. And that phrase, to me, means any page that somebody would land on from the Google search results. It would be their first experience with your website. People would type a term into Google, a search term, and then come to your website. So it is incumbent on any business that believes that their customers would go to Google searching for what they sell or problems related to what they sell, to have as many pages on the website as possible. A fancy one-page website where you click on any section and it zooms you down to that section is quite bad for SEO. And it makes sense if you think about it too, because Google is trying to give people the easiest possible experience, the quickest answer to their question. If somebody searches for a very, very specific thing, then they should get a page that is only about that specific thing and nothing more. And for that reason, if you have a services page or a products page, if you list all your services on one page and you don't have individual pages for each service, that is not a good thing. You should have an individual page for each service. And a lot of times, I think people mistake that for having a poor user experience, having tons of pages people have to keep clicking. You can have a fantastic user experience, same one as you have now, and still have tons of pages. All you do is you give a little preview of everything on the page, like your services. You have 6 services, put a few lines about each service, and then ... read more. So people have enough information to know the basics of it. When they click read more, they get to a separate page, which is there for them, but it's really there for Google as well. So that when somebody types in that specific service, Google has a page to deliver them, to give them the neatest possible answer to their question without bogging them down with other information they don't need. So it's good to have many service pages and product pages. And a lot of you guys, when I was looking at your website, you have service pages but not sub-services. There's often services within your services that people are looking for. And I'm going to tell you which landing pages each company in this room needs shortly. Different industries, industry applications, for SwageLock, that's very important, of course. I think most of the companies in this room, you're targeting specific industries, and it's wonderful if people type a search related to the industry if they get a page all about the applications within that industry. Client type, can make sense if you're in an industry where you serve residential, commercial. And then geo-targeted, for any business that serves local companies or locals. you need to basically call out when you serve a specific area, even if you do the same thing in that area, if you find that people type in search terms along with places next to it. If people are searching for that in your industry, then you need pages that are basically saying, here's how we serve this geographic area. And you need unique content on every page. You cannot write the same thing on every page, because Google then calls that duplicate content and they penalize for that. Yes?
Is there a way to deter that?
Deter?
Yeah, so people put in tires near me,
Right.
and I get all these calls, and I don't sell tires one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any way so that you would be able to not come up all the time?
Anti-SEO. Well, I would just write something on the page, like, we do not do individual orders. If there's a particular page that's ranking that's not your homepage, you can even block Google from it in the code. You can have whoever does your web stuff just de-index it if you want a specific page de-indexed or blocked from Google. But I find that usually putting something on the page is a better thing to do, so that you're not blocking out potential customers, if that is possible.
Alternatively, you can find someone who does sell tires near you and
Yeah.
or does leads them.
Right.
Get a residual from and have them pay you to do it.
Right.
Exactly.
So there's also problems and solutions, and of course there's content. Now, questions and answers is one of, I think, the biggest opportunities, because a lot of people just go to Google and type in their questions. And so I want to just give you some examples of the way this works, because it can be one of the most valuable things that you take away, is basically creating individual pages for each question and answer. And I think it was CPAP that has phenomenal SEO, but needs more FAQs. Let me see if that's...
Oh, hello.
Hi.
That's me.
Yes. So, yeah, so you guys have an FAQ. Tell me if I'm wrong about this. I saw the FAQ, and it basically answers all the questions on one page. So, and you don't have keyword targeted questions. So for instance, one of your questions is, what is the most comfortable mask? That may be a good, helpful thing for people that are already on the website and know that they're there. But if somebody's on Google, they type in, what is the most comfortable CPAP mask? You're not going to show up because you don't have CPAP in the title of the question. You're also not going to show up because you don't have an individual page dedicated to that question. And I'm sure you guys have thought about this because you've thought a lot about SEO. But questions and answers have to be one of the most valuable possible things for you guys. So is that something that you feel you've addressed on the blog, or?
Yeah, so that's exactly it. We were a category listing page with a traditional FAQ, and we looked at our FAQ section and we said that's not going to be regular fresh content. So we kind of had a choice. We could reform the FAQs, or we could do the they ask you answer blog style, and then circle back around once we've proven that out and update the FAQ. So our blog is like in the new format. It's pretty new. It's a year and a half now old. And so it's proving out in traffic terms, and so the FAQ is kind of on the list for next.
Got it.
But I still would ask a question of you. We do answer those kind of questions on our blog side, and obviously the conversion of that is lower because it's further from funnel. When we go back to the FAQ, it sounds like what you're saying is a hub and spoke for the FAQ and a hub and spoke for the blog. We're worried that those will compete. We kind of haven't made that decision.
Oh, yeah.
Could use some help with that.
Sure. I don't know if everybody understood exactly what was said. There's a lot of marketing talk. So, someone who's thought a lot about SEO and marketing was just speaking. So, essentially, he's saying that he chose to target these keywords through pages on the blog as opposed to FAQ pages, which can be basically the same thing. Somebody types in a question. If they get a blog page or a page that's in an FAQ section, they don't care. So what I would normally do is make the FAQ section just link to the blog. So you have all the questions and answers on one page. And when it says read more, there's a little preview of the answer, read more, click on it, it brings you to an individual blog page. So the two are going to the same area. And I think that can work very well. That way it's organized better. The reason I like having an FAQ section at all, because it's like, why would you even have that, is because the fewer clicks from the homepage a user has to travel, meaning if it's something linked right, one click from the homepage in the menu, the more Google promotes it, because they say it must be more important if it's easy to get to. Blog articles go into an archive, and it can take 2 or 3 clicks to get to a page if you go from the home page. And Google doesn't give them quite as high rankings because of that. The base trust level is a little bit lower because of that, unless a lot of people have linked to it. So that's the kind of strategy that I would go with. I think it's a good idea. I'm glad you're there. I'm curious though, because the blog that I saw on your page was discontinued in 2018, at the end of 2018. So is there a separate blog site?
Yeah, we set up a WordPress instance, kept it on the same domain.
It's on the same domain?
.com/blog goes there.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, so I want to look at that later today. And I want to look especially at the titles of the questions, make sure that they are perfect keyword matches, because that's one of the things that people miss is when they're writing blog entries, it's very rare to see that someone has thought about the keyword first. The keyword is the seed from which the article grows. It's not like you write about anything that's interesting in your industry. You start with keywords that are going to have commercial value to you, and then you try to find the best possible answer to that. So,
A follow on there, would you architect the FAQ question as a standalone page or as like hub and spoke?
Can you explain?
A single blended page, or do you do like FAQ landing pages or theme? Because right now we've got this like monolith FAQ page, and obviously that's not good architecture. But what's the current going best architecture for an FAQ page?
So I think having what you call a monolith, I call like a very comprehensive page that has, let's say, the 40 or something most common questions that have the highest value to you. And then it can be organized very neatly, and that can be very useful to have quick reference all on one page for someone. Then I would also, they're separately as blog articles, they exist too, so people can find them there. But people don't really care about where they are on the site, because they're just finding them when they do a quick Google search about, CPAP machine prices or, CPAP reviews or whatever. But I would have the most valuable questions as separate resource pages, like CPAP machine prices and reviews are 2 of your most valuable keywords. Those shouldn't be just questions on a blog. That's too important of a search term. That should be a very long, thorough page that someone spends weeks creating with original graphics, which it may already be. And then that's a separate page under like resources or something like that. That always lives in the menu, and you show Google the importance of it by doing that.
Nice.
Yeah. So before we go to break, I just want to show you briefly the way that I think about creating content for questions and answers. So one of the things that I've done for many years is I give keynote speeches. And so I've thought about the different questions that people ask related to that a conference organizer, whoever hires people like me, what they type in. So keynote speaker fees is one of the most popular. When someone's looking for fees, it means they're looking to hire somebody. So when you type in keynote speaker fees, you see an article that I wrote. Now I wrote this in 2012. This speaks to the value of SEO. I have not touched this page since 2012. So for almost 8 years, it's been ranking at the top of Google. At number 0, it's not even number 1, it's above the search results. And all I did was I created a page, again, this is like older technology a long time ago, that is my opinion of how much to pay a speaker in different categories. It took me like 45 minutes. Now the ROI on this is tremendous because I book a few speeches a year, keynote speeches that are pretty highly paid per year. And the way I do it is I'm giving people objective information. 99% of people don't do anything of value to me in terms of contacting me using this call to action button here. But this is where I sort of share all the good things about me and stuff like that. And then people click on this. And again, I don't care how many people don't click. It's only the people that do. And again, it's maybe 2 engagements a year that I want to take. So that's an example of something that you just created. And unlike advertising where you're paying every time somebody clicks on it, this, whatever you value 45 minutes of my time, it keeps giving and giving every year.
So why is yours having longevity? What is it specifically about you and what you did on that article is keeping you ahead of everybody?
Well, I think it's, first of all, that I have an original graphic. It's not like the best graphic, but Google looks at that and says, okay, there was some extra effort put in here. There's a graphic I've never seen before, which they totally recognize. And then it has bold sections, and something about bold sections with numbers, Google identifies in a specific way as worthy of a snippet, which is that section at the top. So if you put information that, it seems like very informational, it's numbers or dates or something like that, in bold, Google looks at it a different way. No one had done this as well, because in the kind of speaker community, it's not something that's done very much. It's like, oh, give me a call and we'll talk about it type of thing. And to me, that's not very good SEO. It may be the way that it was traditionally done, but that's why I chose to do it. So because it was the first one there, then it was one of those like Rolling Stone kind of things, continuing to gather momentum, where it ranked highly because it was the first page to actually provide value. Then some people linked to it. Some bloggers were like, oh wow, I just found this really interesting article that exposes prices that keynote speakers charge. And then it got the links, which caused it to be more well known, and that jammed it even further to the top. And then it got more links, and now it has 20 links to it or something, and no other keynote speaker article page is going to have that. So it's, some people would call that unfortunately favoring the pages that are already doing well. And some would say it continues to provide value and people spend a long time on it. It has an average time on page of 4 minutes and 20 seconds or something like that. So Google keeps rewarding it.
So for somebody to come over the top of this page, what would they have to do to design an article or something that would just usurp your 0 ranking?
They would have to create a page that Google considers more valuable. So if I were trying to beat my own page, I would just have to do something incredibly satisfying to a searcher, which would probably be do a study and poll 100 different keynote speakers and get the information and put it in a chart. And again, this is just me creatively thinking in a way that I enjoy, but put it in a chart and say, we've done original research and nobody else has done this, and here are the prices for different keynote speakers organized by category. You can click to sort by category because different keynote speakers in different industries. Organized by the occasion, the use case, the type of conference, and make it more comprehensive. You could do a lot better job than this. This is just a wonderful quick reference.
Right.
I think if somebody did that and then they shared it, through a PR firm or something, shared it with a lot of press and within, I guess, the keynote speaker press world, whatever is there, then they would have a chance to beat it. But it's kind of hard to beat an already entrenched snippet listing like this, which is what I find interesting. And that's why I think it's a good idea, if you're in an industry where there's not a lot of really powerful SEO players especially, to just go through and create the authoritative content that will live there for years and years untouched and continue to deliver rankings. Last thing I want to show you before we go to break is a chair for a group that I spoke to, 2 years ago or something like that, said, how can I get more members in my group? And I said, well, you just need to do thought leadership in the same way. What do people type in when they're thinking of joining Vistage? And I said, think of any question that people would type in, who, what, where, why, is Vistage? What do people type in? And then I see
a pyramid.
A lot of funny things there, but I see there's a lot of silly stuff here, but is Vistage worth it is the one question related to is. So I just randomly picked that. I wrote an article called Is Vistage Worth It? An Honest Review. And because nobody had written such a comprehensive article, it now is the article most visited when people are evaluating Vistage because it's #1 for Vistage review. And I think it's above Glassdoor, it's above anything, LinkedIn. And even for the word Vistage, I think it's #4 or something like that. Google loves it so much, which it's a hit or miss. It's like an investment. If you have a portfolio of investments, sometimes you just don't know what's going to hit. You just do your best. You hope you invest in good entrepreneurs and good companies. In this case, this is all I did. I wrote the most satisfying answer to the questions of what Vistage is, and then I put original graphics.
Again, not the best graphic.
It's very silly, yeah, I know, right? I put an original pie chart, which is my personal opinion of why Vistage is valuable, and wrote who Vistage is not right for with more fun graphics. And just nobody had put this amount of effort. This, took like a week, and I probably paid $100 for the graphics, and it has a big impact on Vistage's, people contact me all the time, both potential chairs and potential members. So this is the type of power you have simply by answering a question in a satisfying, creative way. And an organization.
How do you monetize that?
I'm sorry?
How do you monetize that?
I do not monetize this. I do this just for this talk. I did it just to help the chair, but then I decided I would put it in my talk because it's so relevant to the organization whose members I'm speaking to. That's the only reason it's there.
Are you saying any talk?
Well,
This one
this in
specific.
particular.
Oh yeah, this one has pretty much no economic value to me, other than I get to help fellow Vistage members, which I like doing. So that's not economic value, but it makes me feel good. So anyway, let's go to a break, and then we're going to go around the room and look at everybody's website.
Awesome. Great.
So we're going to go onto the websites. I'm going to talk about the concepts that I've already talked about, things like your title tag and whether it's customized, what landing pages you have, what landing pages you need, and I looked at how many links every business in the room has as well. You start with universal weather.
Man, is that beautiful.
It's totally beautiful. So, first of all, you guys have a lot of links pointing to you. You have 592 different websites pointing, so you actually have a wonderful opportunity to rank for almost anything you want to because of the degree of trust conferred upon you by the links, which is great. Now your meta title, you can see the meta title here when you roll over. It says Universal International Trip Support Provider, Flight Planning, there's a few other things. So that means that someone put thought into the title tags, which is good. They're missing some transactional keywords and industry words. So your products and services page, it mentions business aviation, but it doesn't say anything like consulting, support services. Consulting and services are the two transactional pieces, and they're not there. So even on the homepage, I might write something like best corporate aircraft management, security, and consulting services, or something like that. You could even be more general if you want and just focus on the individual services on distinct services pages, of which you have quite a few. That would be fine, but you have to always have the transactional keywords. Landing pages, you have service pages, you have location pages, you have industry pages, and client type pages. The only thing that I would improve, so that's a lot of different landing pages, that's great. I would improve your solutions pages because there's not enough unique content. It's basically like, it feels like the same thing on every
Really, yeah, we kind of recycled some content.
Yeah, exactly. So it's better to just put a little extra effort into each one because each one is so valuable. When you talk about how much trust you guys already have, it would just be great if there's something unique so Google places that at the top for each solution that people might search for. I'd also love to see sub-service landing pages for each of the 12 service pages. So on your trip support page, for instance, all facets of that offering should be built into their own page. Flight planning. Some people might just search for flight planning or aviation weather. Security planning might be something people individually search for. Right now you don't have a good opportunity to show up for that because it's not a distinct page.
We used to have that when we had a previous version site, and we actually at the time we chose to consolidate it. But from an SEO standpoint, I completely see
Right, well,
because
because of the SEO side, I don't see any reason you wouldn't. I can't think of any downfall.
Just page complexity and how most of our customers come to us. They don't necessarily look for, hey, I just want flight planning. We tend to look at more portfolio shoppers, and they're looking at us for kind of a whole package solution. So at the time, that's why we went that direction.
Right, I see. If nobody types it in, there's no reason to have a separate page. But if you think even like one person a year would type it in and it could bring in somebody, it doesn't take away from the user experience to speak to the page complexity part that you mentioned. Because again, you can just put the same thing. If the page looks the same, just put a link at the bottom. Read more about our services or something, and now you have an opportunity for a separate page. Or you could even just link the title of it. You don't even have to put read more if you don't want anyone to read more. But Google will see there's a separate page there, and it'll be there as a landing page, if it's valuable. So, and then sub-industry landing pages could be interesting too. So, like you could build out your OEM landing page into sub-pages that discuss like the special airworthiness permits to the degree that's something people search, assistance with customs, concierge requests, if any of those title searches. Okay. Yeah, customs I think could be right.
And I think, and some of that really long tail keyword stuff we tend to tackle probably more on the blog side than we do on the product side, because what we deal with a lot is customers are looking for kind of that, I'm in an emergency type situation like you talked about. It's like I have a trip to Beijing tomorrow, and so we really focus on that kind of like more like destination guide content, and that's where we get into more of the blog side of the house.
Got it. Okay, as long as you're thinking about whether people would get the best answer for their question on a blog page as opposed to a sales page. If people just want someone that's going to do it for them, they want to buy something and get it done, then you may want to think of it as a landing page.
Again, the trickiness with us is because, well, every business is going to say that, but with our customers, they tend to have a trip to a very specific destination. So it's not going to be feasible for us to create a product page for necessarily like every destination that an operator may plan to go to. So that's why we kind of tackle that more on the blog side. So if you're interested in going to Beijing, if you're interested in going to Shanghai, if you're interested in going to Sao Paulo, all that type of content, we really try to wrap into the blog, but with the call to action to connect the reader with one of our thought leaders that work in the trip support in our trip support department.
Okay, so you ultimately are creating a landing page for every destination. You're just doing it on the blog
We're
rather
just
than
doing the blog
page.
side, yeah. And then we took the approach of putting the blog as a subdirectory versus subdomain to still kind of create that overall, put more weight, on our mothership website, and and I think most of our backlinks are probably actually coming from the blog section.
Well, that's great. It's very smart to do in a subdirectory. Cool. Okay. Yeah. All right.
You got 3 copies.
End of technical conversation. Okay, so Signorelli Company, and this is something that you recently joined, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So Signorelli Company is our holding company, investment. So we don't really want a lot of people there. We want them in our business. As far as like First America Homes is our largest company, home building company. So that's where we want our customers to go.
Well, good. That's what shows up.
Okay, let's go to that. So like this?
Yep.
Okay, new home builder in North Houston. So you can see the title tag right here. Somebody has thought a lot about the SEO and put that exactly. So that seems like a good title tag if you feel that that is the best keyword. If that's the best phrase, because...
So I'd say that we build in the greater Houston area. So why do we pick North Houston?
I think that's where we started, and that's where most of it was.
Okay.
Right, so you guys
Most
are...
of it is. That's right, but it's not only there.
Correct.
So I would not have this pop up immediately on the homepage. I think it's, it can work, but I think even Google is starting to maybe ding sites a little bit for interfering with the user experience a little bit like that. Now, one of the most important things here is people that are searching for new homes in different areas. So these are your geo-targeted landing pages I'm seeing. I'm curious if Splendora Fields, if the page has the area that it is. So it says homes for sale in Splendora, Texas, First America Homes.
We do have a map of all our communities you could click on.
And it's a clickable map that brings you to separate pages for each community?
I believe so.
Probably brings you to these pages.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so if it brings you to these pages, then really what you're looking at is the title tag here. This defines the value of the entire page. Splendora Fields, that's fine, you have the brand name. Then the one SEO keyword phrase you have is homes for sale in Splendora, Texas. So you don't have new. The word new is missing. If somebody wants a new Splendora home and they search for that, you're not going to show up. I don't know if the word, it's not custom, right?
It's not.
Okay, so that's not a keyword you put. There's probably a whole bunch of other keywords probably worth thinking about. And then First America Homes, I would probably take that out because it's a use of the real estate. And you can usually have up to 70, 75 characters within a title tag that Google looks at, including spaces. So I would take out First America Homes and use that real estate because it's probably the right character length, but that's a kind of waste. It's at the end of the tag, no one will even see it. And use it for words like new or buy. What about buy home in, or home listing or something? Somebody should spend 20 minutes thinking about the valuable keywords there. Putting that in could be worth millions of dollars to the company. Just those 3 words and then putting them in each of your geo-targeted landing pages. So that's the first thing I would do. I'm glad you have geo-targeted landing pages. And then I think something like home guides for a business like this would be helpful. When people are thinking of moving to an area, somebody might want to learn about Splendora, or am I pronouncing it correctly? Mm-hmm. Okay. People might want to learn about it, learn what it's like to live there. If you were the authoritative source on what are the communities within Splendora, how many parks are there, not quite Wikipedia, but more analytical, that type of content I think could build quite a lot of authority on Google and then get a lot of potential home buyers there. So that's something I would do on the creative blog side, yeah. Okay, so let's move over to American Omni. Okay, so American Omni. Right now, as far as links, you guys have 50 links, and you need something like I'd say 120 or so to rank really well amongst the competitors that I've found in your business. I did not see any customization of the title tag for SEO. Your title tag says home, American Omni Trading Company, which is just a normal title tag of someone that didn't think about SEO. Do you think SEO is important?
Yes.
Okay. So not everybody, feels that way. So something like best tire brands, specialty tire imports would be great things to put in there. I'm going to give you this piece of paper, by the way. Everything I say you're going to have at the end, though. And then landing pages. You guys have a lot of product landing pages, which is great, but it's almost like an accident that those are the vehicles for SEO. I would love to see maybe like client type pages that target potential buyers, passengers, industrial, specialty, and then building out sub pages that narrow your focus on individual groups of clients. So industrial could have agriculture, shipping and distribution, long haul, OTR trucking, if you feel like people will want to know in that category what's available. And then case study pages could be interesting as well for the well-known companies that work with American Omni. Just some ideas. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. I'm going to go around and I'm going to give thought leadership ideas when we get to that section to every company too. I'm not reading you the bottom section of the paper right now.
Do you think on American Omni that they could do an industry data or articles or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
But see, they're B2B, not B2C.
Yeah.
Would B2B be interested in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if the B2B customers would think about the trends in the industry, whether it's technology, cost of like prices in the industry and how that may be changing, what the future is going to look like in the industry for the kind of things they deal with, the situations they're in, the problems they have.
Oh.
There's a lot of opportunities.
The FAQ, we could target on our tier levels as well.
Yeah.
That would give people information that they don't have necessarily.
Right, or that they assume.
Or they assume, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put in as a suggestion a quarterly newsletter that shares market analyses with tire manufacturing, distribution, and import-export partners.
And we have that we send out to our customers, but it's not on our site. We just don't want our competitors to get their hands on some of that information.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. Okay, but we'll get to the thought leadership side after.
Okay.
So, Ash, you guys have 37 links. Something like 100 would put you above other kind of apartments for rent tenant searches. Most competitors do not have up to like 100 links, so that'd be helpful. So the meta titles that I found are not particularly optimized for SEO, particularly because they don't use transactional keywords. So I would make a title tag like best apartments for rent in San Antonio and Houston TX.
Can you move to?
Yeah, we can move there.
Yeah, so we can see what you see.
Yeah, so right now, it just says home Ashford communities. So it's really turning away Google when it could be attracting searchers. So the homepage matters, but what really matters is each of the community pages, and that's where you have an opportunity to have landing pages. So you do have a page here that you can click on. So now we're in the folder community/Strawbridge, and it's the same thing that we were talking about earlier. This is an opportunity not being used. The title tag just says Strawbridge, Ashford Communities, and since Strawbridge is a brand name, it's not the name of a city, there's no SEO value at all here. There's not even, Pearland, homes for rent or something like that, or apartments for rent.
Yeah.
That's really, if it just said Pearland apartments for rent, that alone would make the page far more valuable. It would suddenly have a lot of value instead of not having value right now. Because this page itself is good. It just needs a different title tag. And then of course you can think about all kinds of searches or questions people have about that area when they are thinking of renting an apartment there, where they want to know if it's family friendly, what the demographics are, whatever it may be. I think it would be great to do that. So let's see. Yeah, basically I think I've told you everything off the top of my head that I wrote down as well. Okay, so let's move on to IntraCare. So the first thing I noticed about the IntraCare website is that it hasn't been updated in a while. It says not secure.
Forever?
Okay, yeah. Well, do you guys think of this as an important marketing vehicle?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But for us, it was just time.
Yeah, I understand.
Time and ability is what we deal with, yes.
Who's doing the search? Is it the people that refer to you? Is it doctors and hospitals? Or are there some families doing searches?
All of the above.
Both.
Law enforcement as well, so.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, it would be wonderful to update the website. It currently just has some random characters at the top there. and it's not secure, which means Google's not even going to allow it to rank highly at all because Google really prefers sites that are secure. When it says not secure, it means you don't have what's known as an SSL certificate, which is like free or like $50 that you get from your web host. Super easy to do, makes a very big difference for ranking. And then, of course, you'd want to, I mean, just the site design is very outdated. I would love to see that updated to, reflect the quality of the care that you're offering and the services that you're providing. So you guys have 71 links, which is pretty good. I'd say like somewhere north of 100 and maybe 115 or so would put you in a good spot for Google rankings. And then title tags, I'd love for the homepage title tag to change to Mental Health Services and Substance Abuse Treatment Center in Houston, TX. That would be right on the nose. Landing pages, you have 4 pages right now that are, I would call, service landing pages. There's programs, children, adolescents, adults, and outpatients, the 4 program pages. And I'd love to see sub-service pages under the 4 main ones. So for adults, it could be psychiatric inpatient treatment, chemical dependency services. And there's a whole world of keywords in this industry.
And those would all be standalone pages?
Yeah, if they're standalone pages, then they can rank on Google. And then they should be geo-targeted because it's a very geo-targeted industry.
And so you would do that like you said about the little blurb under adults, and then the read more, go to a standalone page?
Yes. Okay. Each one of them is very likely to bring in patients, depending on who's typing it in. Again, if it's law enforcement or a referring agency or a patient themselves, it would be the same keywords. There's a lot of very clear keywords in this industry. We have a few clients that are substance abuse treatment centers, and the word treatment is very important. The word center is very important. And there's a whole bunch of other things that people only type in when they really need help. And there's all kinds of keywords that are less valuable that you often fall into the trap of trying to target in this industry, which is general searches around mental health issues. Let Wikipedia or a medical site deal with that. That's not going to bring in local patients. You need to find geo-targeted keywords that say treatment, center, facility, help, and then a geo-targeted phrase. Yes.
You're going through and telling people how many links they should have. Sorry, my ignorance. What are you calling a link?
When another website has an element on the page that when you click on it brings them to your website.
And related to that, is that a number that we can look up?
Oh yeah, so this was a question I got at the break as well. I looked it up on a tool that I use called ahrefs.com. It's like a phenomenal tool for measuring how many links you have. Do you guys use that? Or?
No, I looked at their site. It's a crazy comprehensive, very, very technical SEO thing.
It is, yeah.
Is that a fee-based site or is it?
Yeah, it's $70 a month. But I looked up how many links you have and would need, because I looked up some of your competitors as well. That's what I'm basing how many more you need. If you guys just want me to send a Excel spreadsheet with all your links in, if you're interested in that, I'll happily send it to you, so you don't have to. Yes. So if you want that, just give me your business card and write links on it, and I'll just give my assistant the business cards when I get back, and she'll send it to you.
What was that site? You just...
Oh, it's ahrefs.com. ahrefs.com. There's a free site that you can use that's less comprehensive. It's put up by Google itself. It's Google Search Console. Anyone that's doing any web anything for you should know Google Search Console. Google Search Console has a little section in the menu where it'll show you all the different domains linking to you. So it's sort of a free version, but they don't package the data very neatly and tell you how valuable each link is, whereas Ahrefs does, because Google is not incentivized to help you do better SEO in particular.
They also pull random links out, and they also hide trailing fresh links, so it's really hard to use that tool to build your link domain.
Yes, thank you.
And then on the number of links, I'm wondering if you're factoring domain authority in?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, well, I'm kind of looking at like average links. When I say how many more links, I'm just taking an educated guess because I'm trying to give slightly oversimplified information, because the fact is, if you produce a blog and create 2 articles a week that are really fantastic around genuinely valuable keywords, you don't even need any more links, and you could probably get above your competitors. So when I'm just giving a quick, if you were to go out to all your industry partners or you do some press and get 50 more links, if that's the number I give, and they're of average domain authority, which domain authority is like Google Trust, then you'd probably get above them. That's my guess that I'm giving. Get above your competitors and be at the top, yeah.
Are optimized press releases, are those counted or not counted?
Not counted.
Not counted?
Yeah, they were until like 4 years ago or so, and then Google specifically called them out as a tool that low-quality SEO firms use. It's pretty easy. Directory, press release, so. Okay, so we're going to go to the Genova Health site. Let's look at this. I haven't seen this before because that's the one that was on the Vistage website. So, Family Tree In-Home Care, your home care agency in Houston. That's an excellent title tag. The reason it's excellent is it has the brand, which doesn't really matter to me right now, but it has in-home care, which is not the most popular but an important term. And then it has home care agency. The word agency, I just love when I see that, and the word Houston, super important. So it has in-home care agency as a potential keyword, home care agency, in-home care Houston. There's like 6 or 7 combinations of words in there. So I think that's a great title tag. What I'm really curious about is the different sort of use cases or purposes that people need in-home care that they would go to Google. In-home care for types of things. So before I actually go that, I want to show you what I mean. The way that I often start finding a keyword is I go to Google, and then I look what Google tells me through autofill. People type in-home care for. And this gives me a whole bunch of great ideas. It would be valuable to have a page for each one of these things. In fact, if I really want to get specific and do a phenomenal amount of SEO, I'll go in-home care for space A, and then B, and just go through. So then you would have to put Houston there, because you do not want to rank nationally for this. I don't think there's any value of that unless there's referral value, potentially, as someone mentioned before. So you're going to want to put in-home care for veterans. That might be a good term. Houston. And then keep going down. The reason that these are valuable is Google's already telling you people type that in. In fact, when people type in home care for, the first thing they type in is veterans, and the second thing they type in is dementia. Google is very intentional about this, and actually has made this into a wonderful keyword research tool by accident. So that's what I would use to create use case or condition landing pages. Now, it looks like you have some of that already going on under what we do. And these are kind of like service landing pages. And I would be curious if this could be expanded out a lot. I'm sure it could be. Using the method that I said, I'm sure there could be something under here that says specialties. That's all you have to do. You're not creating a cluttered page. And you click on specialties, there might be like 40 different landing pages linked. We work with patients, in the following areas. And then you go through the whole Google autofill list and create a page. Someone who visits that page, and most people wouldn't, but some might, they'll be like, wow, okay, there's a lot of different things they do. Locations, very important. Let's make sure the title tag for Austin, for instance. In-home care Austin. Somebody thought very carefully about SEO. It's very on the nose, as it should be. In-home care. It is not necessary to repeat in-home care. That's a bit of a waste of the real estate there. So the only thing I would do, I think it's there as part of the brand name. I would just use that space for another valuable keyword. Like the word agency is not there associated with Austin, whereas you did that so well on the homepage. So I've just put a little bit more thought into every geo-targeted page and then do use cases.
So this might apply for other people with multiple sites where the value is local. Do you so we have a unique page for each location?
Yeah.
How much does the duplicative content matter when you're going? Because I think if you look at each one of our locations, they're meta tagged differently, but it's the same content on each.
Oh, okay. That's very important. I'm glad you brought that up. You shouldn't do that because Google does not allow duplicate content to rank well, typically, unless they really love the site. If your trust is through the roof, they'll allow it, but it's not a good practice. So you want to come up with something unique to say about each location. You would say, we do the exact same thing at each location, but you still have to think a little harder than that, which means putting case studies from that area, anonymized case studies from that area, talking about some of the geographic features or the population differences, if there's a lot of veterans in one location, or if there's a lot of other resources located in Austin, if there's like a phenomenal dementia research center there that you could mention. There's always some way to personalize it. And when you do that, you'll be allowed to rank as opposed to putting the same information. You'll see it makes a very big difference. And while you're doing that, even if they aren't places where you have specific locations, I would put some other areas, and I would just say other areas or something, because you're not trying to bog down this list. This list needs to be user-friendly. Put something at the bottom that says other locations, and then it could be areas that you serve, or other areas we serve might be a better way of phrasing it, that are not areas where you have locations. I'm sure there's areas, a lot of times for in-home care areas, you want like wealthier areas or something. If you just want to choose those areas where you get more patients, then you can just choose those and put them in a separate page that's in your other areas we serve. So that's a bunch of things.
That each have a landing page?
Each one is a separate landing page about its distinct area, the patients you've served from there, anything you can say to make it unique.
Yeah.
I feel like some unique graphics or whatever would be easy.
Oh, yeah.
About the demographics.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody wants examples, we've done all the things I'm talking about for various clients. I can just send you clients of ours so you can see literally what I think is a good idea.
Yeah.
So you can always just, write that on your card, send examples of geo-targeted landing page or something. Yes?
Hey, Evan. Alex has used in-home hyphenated, but he could do it as in a variety of different ways. Not hyphenated, run together, hyphenated. Does that matter to Google, or does it see all of those the same?
So it actually does matter to Google. Google knows the difference between conjugations of words, everything. It's probably not going to matter in this case because people mean the exact same thing. Google picks up when there is a slight difference in meaning. And if you have a perfect match, including the hyphen, that's just a little bit better, but it really doesn't matter in the context of if you have considerably higher trust than a competitor and somebody types in a dash and you don't have the dash, you're still going to win out. So the practical answer is no, something like a dash or an apostrophe doesn't matter, but pluralization does. Because people mean very different things when they pluralize or use the gerund form of a word, ing. It does matter if it changes the meaning. Okay, so let's go to PCCA. So this is an area I know a decent amount about. What I have found is, so it's interesting because you guys are specifically a membership resource.
Right.
It's not, but you sell compounding ingredients as well.
Two pharmacies.
Two pharmacies that are members only.
Yeah, not all. No, we do sell. So we have a group of things we only sell to members, and then we have some things that we sell to everybody.
Right. Okay. So first of all, you guys have a tremendous number of links. You must have been around a long time, or
38 years.
Yeah. Okay. And the website has been around since the 90s, or what?
Probably.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
So that's phenomenal. You have as much trust as you need, which puts you in the position where I'm going to say, every title tag you need to have a good keyword in, otherwise it's just a waste. Because you don't even need to do any work on the trust side, which is a lot more work for most. That's usually the hard part. So it just says the brand name is the homepage. That can be okay for a membership organization. When it comes to buying the products, for instance, if a pharmacy is seeking a specific compounding ingredient, then you really want to make sure that you think about the way that they search. So let's go to this landing page. First thing I see is that it's a dynamic product catalog page, which is not as good as the static page that just says /Versabase anhydrous HRT. So the URL is not that SEO friendly. I would love to see, it can just be sort of repointed using a 301 redirect, as they call. And it just says, basically, it copies this product title and makes it that. And in that way, it's not customized. Somebody types in anhydrous, because Veribase I think is the brand name, anhydrous HRT. I have no idea what that is, but let's see what anhydrous HRT. Okay, Google doesn't even have any suggestions. You might get some ideas, so there you are. Okay, I don't know if nobody else but you carries that, or no, it looks like someone else does. Oh, let's take out the HRT. It looks like that may be. Okay, that's interesting. So here would be an opportunity to see if anything related to buying could be there. Should the word buy be there? Should the word ingredient be there? Should, for sale, should wholesale, should compound be there? All these words that would bring in a lot more search results are available to you. It would take a few seconds to change the title tag, and you would almost instantly rank because of the degree of trust you have. So it's a very exciting opportunity to customize all your product page title tags And then I would definitely create pages around the transactional searches that people look for, like compound ingredient supplier or something like that. Do you have something for that? Do you have a page for that?
I don't think so.
Okay, let's search it. Compounding ingredient.
Pharmacy.
Well, no, I think they want the supplier. Well, that's not the word then. What do people type in, do you think?
APIs, maybe.
Oh, APIs, right, of course. Okay, this doesn't seem to be a lot of searches. But you would want to think about whatever people would type in, basically, is what I'm trying to communicate. And create pages, sales pages, for your most transactional terms. The lack of attention to SEO, I would say, is making you miss out on a lot of great opportunities. So it's exciting.
It's interesting to your comment about plurals, right there, it's suggesting.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
What do you do is, well, you have to know that Google is trying to redirect people there because they think people mean that, so you probably want to optimize for the plural version. Yeah, so it just tells you that you probably want to go there because many people will click on this. And it is different, and it brings up scholarly articles. As you can see, it's treated totally differently to your question before. Okay, so let's go to Sierra Hamilton. By the way, you guys finding this valuable, that going around spending all this time? Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Just don't embarrass us too bad.
I'll try. So for Sierra Hamilton, okay. So you guys have 31 links. Again, a little over 100 puts you in good shape. I think even under 100 you'd be in pretty good shape, although there's a decent amount of competitors, I think I found.
Yeah, there are a lot of competitors.
In this area, right?
Evan, how does one go about getting more links? Because almost a lot of people you've come to, I'm not sure how to take action on that feedback.
Okay, thanks for the question. So links come naturally when you create great content, I find, because it starts to rank, especially when you write in niche areas where there's not good content. And then, people that are searching around for information who also have access to their own blog or any sort of publication find it, especially when you create authoritative content with its own graphics or tables or data or whatever you do. So it just happens naturally when you create content. Content is valuable in and of itself, and it increases trust, and it builds links, increasing more trust. So I think of it as like the panacea, but the more direct way to get links would be to hire a PR firm, or to simply reach out to industry partners or nonprofits you've helped sponsor, whatever it is, any community work you do, and just say, hey, can you mention our site, put our logo or whatever it is, and then you just have to make sure it links back to your website.
So are you saying that you found competitors that had somewhere around 80, 90, or 100 links to their site? Okay.
Yeah, I looked up 2 or 3 others.
But the logo
so one could also
on the site doesn't help. You have to make sure it links.
Yeah, it has to link.
So we need to give them that.
But I guess if you figured out what kind of content your competitors had that was getting linked to, and you generated even better content but in the same category, the same vein, that might be another way to do it.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. It's not my favorite way. It's definitely a good idea, but it's not my favorite way because I'd like to just look holistically. I like to start from scratch, look at the searches that people are performing in your industry, and then just say, what's the best possible page? I like to start with a blank page. The best possible page to answer that question. And I find that you can find things your competitors haven't done, because if you do what you're saying, it's, again, a good idea, but it's limiting you to your competitors' discoveries.
Right.
And I like the idea of them having to copy you,
right,
because you've done better original research in the first place.
And the way to figure out those questions would be to do some searches around with what or how or something like that in the beginning and kind of guess at what your targets might be wondering.
You would start by guessing, see what Google autofills.
That's what I mean.
Right, and then Google has a keyword suggestion tool. It's called the AdWords Keyword Planner. That's free. You can use that. And you can you should look at what competitors type in or what their title tags have in them. There's going to be certain words that are there you might not realize. So for you guys, your title tags right now have some basic keywords just because of the page naming structure, like well control, drilling and completion, but not transactional phrases. So I'd make your homepage title like top oil and gas consulting and field engineering firm or something. Consulting and firm are very important. And then top is important to the degree that people are looking for the best in the industry.
Okay.
You guys have 4 service pages linked from your main services drop-down. I'm sorry, it's on a page. There's no drop-downs on your site. And that's good, but you could use sub-service pages for all the services encapsulated in your 4 main categories. So well control could be broken into modeling and planning, project management, blowout, and emergency response, only if people type it in. You know, to the point we were talking about before. If nobody types it in, you don't need a page for it. Client type pages, I think, would be good, because you're going to have different groups. You can have landowners, private investors, funds, banks, perhaps. That's my guess, at least. Yeah, those are some ideas.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay, let's go to plant logistics. It's a nice website.
Nice. Thanks. Clean.
Is this? Should I be doing this? Do you care about this? Okay. Given the champagne glasses.
We're still connected to the company, so.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be getting advice. You could give this advice.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, that's true. Okay, good.
3-year contract.
Okay. So the title tags are currently not optimized for SEO. You don't have that many links. You only have 13. But if you created content, you would start to earn more trust. So that would happen naturally, I think, because I think you do something very specific and I find interesting. The title tag should be in-plant logistics management for plastics, Houston, Texas, something like that. That was my best guess to characterize it. Landing pages. So you have 3 service pages right now. You've got in-plant services, contract packaging, and resin enhancement services. There's no other landing pages at all on the whole site. It's got kind of a very modern look to it, which is very beautiful to look at, but not as good for SEO. So I'd love to see sub-service pages within in-plant services. You could have equipment design, product inspections, quality issue avoidance, things like that. Use case pages would be a great type of landing pages. The situations that your potential clients might find themselves in related to resin drying, optical sorting, metal detection and removal, and then geo-targeted pages for at least where your service and manufacturing centers are. Houston and Baytown, Burkeville, Sabine. So that's what I would do there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Out of curiosity, so y'all had a name change.
Mm-hmm.
And so from United DC to Plant Logistics. So how do you... So I'm wondering if the links have have anything to do with, or the lack of...
Right.
With
So
that
I
name change.
noticed that, and I was, well, first of all, the site's not secure. That's something I was going to mention later. It's very important, very easy to change. And then when it changed from United, it needed to have 301 redirects, which is the SEO-friendly redirect from all the old URL to their corresponding new URL, the new version of that URL, assuming there is one. If that wasn't done, you'd be missing all your links, because all the links that are pointing to, let's say, your old homepage, the value of those are transferred if you do the SEO-friendly 301 redirect. So that would be what needed to be done, and I hope it was done.
So what do you call it? Redirect? What is it?
301 redirect. That's the SEO-friendly redirect.
Okay, and we do that through Google.
It's not really through Google, but Google sees it, yeah.
Okay.
It's on your website. It's like a direction given in the code of your website.
And in that same scenario,
yes.
would you want to, like if you were acquiring a company or something like that, would you want to keep that old domain? Not only keep the old domain, but like keep the site exactly as is?
You don't need to. You can redirect the old pages to the new pages, and that's completely fine. Often if a company's being merged or acquired or whatever, you kind of need to bring the old into the new brand. But what you want to make sure you don't do is lose the old pages completely. A lot of times people are just like, let's kill that page. It's, we don't need it. But what you really want to do is like create a home for it on the new site, even if it's not that easy to find, so that you can still get the links and the search traffic.
So with the redirect, you're still retaining the domain authority or the value of that?
Yeah, the Google Trust or Domain Authority, whatever you want to call it. That's the only way to retain it, because Google knows it would be unfair when sites go through a rebrand or a new URL to take away all the trust they've earned over 15 years or whatever. So that's why they allow 301 redirects to do that. Yes? Ash?
So we only created Ash for maybe a few years ago. We had no brand name before that. Should we be, I'm not sure all the previous pages are redirected. Is there a way of figuring that out, whether they're being redirected or not?
Yeah, you can go to the old URLs and see if they forward, first of all, and then you can, there's tools you can use to look at the HTML code of the old URLs and see if it says 301 redirect in there or 302. You want the 301.
So you can go back and, they were individually done previously.
Right.
Property by property, but in the main site.
So I'd be very interested to know that, because you're combining the value of a lot of different properties into one, which is probably a great thing to do from a user perspective. But making sure that they were all forwarded at the very least, but 301 redirected, that could make a major difference in your Google trust.
You can look at the 404s too.
What's a 404?
Your web blog. Your web
Can be talked about offline, yeah.
You also want to check the quality of your old pages to make sure that the 301 is passing what you value.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I'm not going down those rabbit holes, even though it's very good point. Yeah.
I'll be delegating this out. I have a few people.
Take care of 301 and 404, please. CEO can't
Zero chance.
Story on the point.
He knows there's a zero chance of me doing it. I just wait there.
See a lot of sites that either they don't resolve without the www or they actually resolve as a separate sites. And
Yes.
A lot of companies still.
It's a very good point. I think it's too technical for this talk, but it's a very important point. Is right. You need to properly resolve canonical issues, HTTPS versus HTTP, and www, non-www. Yes.
Theming between titles, each one, or is that?
So I find that, so the question is about the titles that are on the actual page, like the bold titles within the page, known as H1 header tags, how important those are. Those still matter a little bit. They don't matter anywhere near as much as the keyword in the title tag, and I certainly never advocate repeating your keyword within your content a lot. I think that's very old school strategy. A lot of people still do that. I have not seen it makes a significant difference, but I would probably repeat it once in the header tag. But again, we're getting into things that matter like 1% of the algorithm or something, not as important as the larger strokes that we're talking about, the brush strokes. Yes?
When you say significant difference, what does that mean?
What did I say about?
You said something makes significant difference.
Right.
What does that mean?
I mean that if you were to, like, if you're already in Johnny's shape, his website's shape, then you do care about things that are going to move you from spot number 4 to spot number 3 or something like that. For most of the companies I speak to in Vistage and most of the companies in the room, customizing your title tags and having a blogging program or some sort of content creation program is going to bring you from 10% good or whatever, bring you from like a 2, let's say, to an 8 pretty quickly. And then you can worry about getting from an 8 to a 9. So when I say significant, I mean like 1 notch in a scale from 1 to 10 or something would be not that significant, although it would be to Inkjet and CPAL. So, Inkjet.
Before we move on to Patricia, I'm new to the group.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
You might want to just type in my website and see. I'm kind of curious how easy it is to find.
It just might be in order.
Oh yeah? Okay. What's your company?
H&M Industrial EPC.
But he was on my list.
Really? He wasn't on my list, but
He wasn't on Vistage's list?
He wasn't on the Vistage website yet when I looked at it because I started looking like a month
he
ago.
went on the Vistage website, yeah, but he was in my list.
Oh, okay. Well, what I'll do is look at it live and then...
Okay.
No, I thought we had bigger problems. I didn't think it was, I thought you found the wrong company, so I thought...
okay.
Couldn't find you.
Okay, let's go to your website first before...
They couldn't find you.
Okay.
No big deal.
So it's H&M.
H plus N.
Kevin, do you ever have a member that you try to go talk to and they don't even have a website?
Yes. That does happen.
That's the first key to SEO.
Yeah.
So have a website.
Okay.
It's hard to find something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I don't know what to say usually.
You don't have a website, you don't exist?
All right, so industrial
I could
design
see that in
build
my business.
So I'm already
No
seeing the title tag says probably the key thing that you do. If you could encapsulate your company in one search term, that seems to be it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The one thing it doesn't have is like firm. So industrial design build. Let's investigate before we even click what people type in related to design build. Okay, firms, as I thought, is the first thing that people type in. So that's an interesting opportunity right there. Services is definitely good. Services, I would think, is somewhere there, but firms is the most important. Now, when somebody types in industrial design build firms, it is not obvious that they're looking for your sales page. Actually, they're probably looking for thought leadership. Let's type it in. And you see a Google local result because Google knows you want to like sort through companies because you pluralized it. And notice what's number 1. Not a sales page, not a home page, but a piece of thought leadership. So that's what you need to create on your page. This goes back to the beginning of the presentation. And if you look at number 1 and number 2, basically the whole top of the page is just thought leadership here. And more thought leadership on the same thing, more thought leadership. And then finally, Google says, okay, maybe somebody wants to look at an individual, must be a very popular or a very large company. So you could beat out ENR potentially by creating a page that's better. This may be tough to beat out because it looks like someone did something very thorough. But there's ways to either get right below them or potentially beat them out if you create something that really describes what to look for in the top design build firms. You wouldn't want to sit there and review competitors, but you could do articles on like how to look for one, what interview questions to ask. So, or maybe you say, I'll just go for a design build firm. I won't even step into that fray.
But on that, people also ask. I see that more and more now. What does that pop up and what value is it and where do they get the content?
So they get it from the search terms that some of the same people type in.
Okay.
So that's where they get it from. I find that it often isn't that helpful for SEO because often like large national searches are definitional searches. These are probably all useless keywords in this case for your company. Maybe this, but probably not. You probably want someone that's like knows they want an industrial design build firm, especially because they're not related to industrial. So yeah, these are all useless keywords. They populate just to help people essentially, and I find that they don't have that big of an impact on SEO because they're often so general.
Gotcha.
So back to your site. Let's see what else we can find. Okay. So let's see what landing pages exist. I like that. It looks like it's a secure site. It's a nicely designed site. Looks like it looks new. So design, build, engineering, construction, safety. So maybe these are 4 different services. Is that what I'm getting?
Kind of. Yeah. Service lines.
Service lines. Okay. Okay. So under design, build, I see some other landing. Oh no, these are not landing pages.
Yeah, they're like pop-up.
Yeah. So they do that. So if this is a search term, usually a pop-up or a zoom down on the page or something is an opportunity for an actual separate page. And again, you could have the pop-up because it's the best user experience and then have a read more at the bottom of this. That would also work. But if people type in this phrase, and I don't know, is this a valuable phrase?
Probably not.
Is there anything that could be here? Do people ever look for faster design build or anything? If not, well, I guess not, then these are not an opportunity for landing pages. Is there an opportunity within here for a specific type of design build within industrial? Is there any other keywords in there? This would be the page to house those keywords.
Why do you have Chris Jones's face on there?
Oh my God.
That's fine. It's part of my modeling contract.
It was a college gig.
This seems like it could be more of an opportunity for subservice landing pages on the engineering.
This is more keywords.
And then there could be problems people run into that may lead them to need a design build firm. That could be an opportunity that's covered on a blog or specialty areas or some sort of thing here. And let's look at your blog. We'll give a preview to what that looks like.
Okay.
Some of them pretty old.
Okay, so it doesn't look like you do a blog. Oh,
No,
well, we
yeah,
do.
that's just a static up the top to like welcome.
So you definitely want to get rid of this then.
Okay.
You're giving an impression that you haven't updated. So that you do. You updated last, like 5 weeks ago. But what I like is that there seems to be potentially a keyword in here. I can't tell if this is something people type in. But I like how it's not just general. Oh, you copied the whole blog entry instead of a preview. This seems like a good. Okay, so this is good. I like that there's things that people would search in the title. It's just not posted on frequently enough. Looks like you post like once a month.
Sporadic.
Yeah, it's like pulling teeth at people right.
Yeah. It's.
They might have things to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. If you did blog articles like this, if you can add graphics, even better. And you did them like 8 times a month, so far more, 8 times as much as you do it now. And I know that's like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You would find that you get a disproportionate level of trust increase through Google, and you get far more leads. So that's basically one of the things that I'm
So when you say 8 times a month, it doesn't all have to be blog content. It can be just
Yeah, it could
any
be
kind of content.
landing pages in problems we solve, areas we serve. It could be any landing pages, but I find that when Google sees that you're producing that much content, they start to view you more like a news website and less like a commercial entity.
Okay.
So you have the expertise in-house, but not the systemization kind of thing. Yeah.
Question for you. So when you say that it'll significantly increase Google's trust,
Yeah.
how long does that take? Do we have to wait that 8 months that you said that it typically takes, or is it quicker?
Yeah, it's somewhere between 4 and 6 months before you start to see your traffic go up and to the right, and that's what I mean when I say a significant increase. I mean that whatever traffic you're getting right now, you'd suddenly start seeing the traffic increase. At first, it might be like 10, 15%. By the end of a year, it should, depending on your traffic level, it should go up 80, 100%, so double. By the end of a year, that's pretty typical. But it depends. If you already have a huge amount of traffic, that's not going to happen with cpap.com or something like that. But if it goes up,
Actually,
50%. It did? Yeah? Okay, good. I'd like to hear that.
In a rearview mirror. Your incremental is not.
We're currently trending up about, 150% year over year due to these tactics on a pretty strong base.
Well, can't get a better testimonial for what I'm talking about than that.
In terms of the unique graphic, is there like a magic number? So we typically only publish with one graphic, and we tend to just take a stock photography and kind of doctor it up a little bit. And so I didn't realize that, I didn't know this, that a unique graphic would actually boost your ranking. Is there like a magic number? Is it like 2 graphics, 3 graphics? Is one sufficient?
Well, it's not about technically having a unique graphic. Google does look at that. They're mostly looking at how useful the searcher is finding it to be.
Okay.
So if the unique graphic talks about flight delay times going into Beijing or something like that, and it has a average time of year or whatever and shows the flight delay times, and you just think that's going to be very interesting and useful. Somehow Google is, you trust Google's brilliant engineering and just like huge team of highly paid search engineers to figure out what people are going to like, because that's they have a lot of time and energy and resources dedicated to that, and that's all I do. That's why I don't think of SEO as something that's constantly changing that I have to keep up with. Creating the best possible content for a given keyword has worked since 2004 when I started. So I just think of it in that term and not how many. But if you wanted a simple answer, I would have one custom graphic for 1,200 word post maybe.
But so when you were showing your Vistage graphic, you had cartoons of people grabbing their heads and all this kind of stuff. So in that vein, is that adding the value, or is that just making it more engaging to the customer? I mean, why would Google treat that as
increased time on site? People like the article a little bit more. They find it more interesting to read because it has graphics. It's not great graphics, but I'll show you one of the pages we created for one of our clients that does logistics of shipping pallets. So this is what I consider to be like a phenomenal page for a big keyword. It's for plastic pallets. We just created this, and the goal is within a year to rank at the top for plastic pallets. So you see a graphic right here we created to just talk about the advantages, just start simple. And then we drew different types of pallets, because this is almost a definitional Wikipedia-like page. And then you go on to all kinds of charts. Yeah, you have to go to this level of obsession if you want to beat like Uline and the multi-billion-dollar companies, which we have on a lot of the other pages.
And do you expect Uline to take a look at this and up their game?
Yeah.
They usually don't. If they did, they have more trust, so they could beat our client. But I find
lazy.
Yeah, they're lazy. I find the really big companies don't do as good of a job as us, so we can beat the really big companies. Every now and then you see like an obsessed mid-sized company that has someone like me that's like thinking like this, and those are the tougher ones to compete against. But yeah, anyway, something like this, if you want to go for the biggest keyword in your industry, that's the type of illustration stuff.
So we write articles from time to time within the organization. If you put that on our website, those articles, would that help?
Yeah, especially, well, only if you have keywords in the titles. If you just write and it's like, a realization I had was the title. It has no value for SEO. It may have value for email marketing and using on LinkedIn or Twitter, or in your case it's consumer, so it might be Instagram or Facebook as well. So yes, the more content you publish about things that people search when they are in a buying mood, the more leads you're going to get.
Specific to what it is you're selling.
Yeah.
Kevin, quick question on the how to run a park.
In a certain area. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you should put how to run a park in Houston.
Yes.
You can't just say how to run a park.
Right, because if you do that, then you're going to trigger national results from Google, and it's not going to be of value to you.
On the publishing of some of these technical articles, our main push currently, we push them out to LinkedIn, and that's the main exposure we get.
Yeah, that's
Does
good.
that push trust? I mean, does that correspond to Google trust at all? Or
It does not, because it's the no-follow link voting for yourself situation.
liking it or whatever, that does nothing.
Yeah, it should do something. Back in 2011, Google tried to enact what they called social search. They tried to buy Facebook, and Zuckerberg wanted to beat them at their own game. So advertising. So Google ultimately failed at that because they tried to start a social network, Google Plus, in order to get people's social information and make things like likes and shares matter. So it does matter in terms of YouTube because they own that, and then they have all your search history, but LinkedIn, because Google doesn't own it and control it, doesn't affect Google except indirectly. People see something valuable on LinkedIn, it'll go to your website, people may link to your website, customers could see it. It's valuable in and of itself as a marketing method, it's just not valuable for SEO directly. Okay, yes?
One more question. So about these articles that you're publishing, so a company like ours where we have the parent company and then we have different divisions who then have their own websites, if we're publishing the same story on all of our platforms or on 2 or more of our platforms, are we cannibalizing ourselves? Competing for the top, should we just pick one? And if so, what's the best methodology of picking it? If we don't pick the umbrella, do we go as specific as we need to be?
Right, so it would be great if there was unique content on each one, but it's very reasonable to syndicate. I mean, a lot of newspapers do it. You just need to put certain syndication tags so Google knows that it's not duplicate content, which you can Google easily and find out what type of tags there. So that way, one of you, the first website you publish on will get the credit. But that's what you would need to do. Creating unique content for each is the ideal circumstance. If you think of Google as just like a hungry monster that just wants as much content about every tiny unique keyword search, even if one person has ever typed it in, because something like half of searches are totally unique to the person that typed it in that year. So Google will take content on any unique search possible, so their needs are endless, but certainly just using syndication tags and getting credit for one site would be a great place to start. Yeah.
So if you use LinkedIn and you had all your employees get in LinkedIn and link to your site, would that be unique links?
Not from LinkedIn, but if they linked from any other blog that a site or blog that they own or control, that'd be very valuable.
Okay.
Yeah, probably not.
Say that again.
If you asked everybody you know to link to you, and you don't want to do it too directly, if it happened on the same day, like if all of us said, let's link to each other's sites.
I'm just thinking employee-based. If we got 100 employees, they all...
But they have to have web pages.
They have to have web pages.
Okay,
if they link
okay,
from their
yeah.
social media, it's not valuable.
All right, that's what I was trying to get from Facebook or from our...
I think
right.
It's valuable, not valuable to SEO and to Google, but it's valuable. Because, it's still traffic.
Right. Social media marketing is valuable. I'm just not talking about that right now.
I understand.
Yeah.
If there's a surge of links, they discredit that.
If there's what?
A surge of links like that.
That's right. So if we all link to each other's websites today, we'd probably all be penalized, other than like the most trusted sites that they usually give a pass to. So you wouldn't want to do that. But probably if over the course of like 2 years we all link to each other's sites, we'd probably be fine. But that's not the best way to go about it. It's easier to just do the things that have value in other ways than come up with a scheme.
For quick.
Yeah. So, inkjet, and how we're doing on timing, let's talk about that for a minute, because we're taking much longer with this, which is wonderful, because it's bringing value.
Well, you have another hour.
We have another hour. Okay, we're good. So, for inkjet. So, inkjet Inc. I have is having 58 links. Have you guys looked at your links?
No.
About 20, so when we just met with our SEO company, they said that there were a bunch of spam links on there, and for around 2015, and so they removed a bunch of them.
Okay, so I noticed more, but eliminated the spam ones myself. So that's why. So it's not as many links as I would think, given how focused on SEO you guys are, because I saw your title tags are really SEO-y, but not in the bad way. So if we look at the title tags, industrial printers, industrial inkjet ink, If you had one more keyword, that would not be good. It's like too much keyword repetition, but 2 I find still feels helpful and natural. So that works fine, and it's just right to the point. It's very general because it's the home page as it should be. What really matters is each of these pages. Continuous inkjet printer, industrial printers. So sometimes keywords are repeated. That's my only criticism of your title tags. Sometimes it'll say printers twice. In this case, there's no repetition because there's the singular and the plural. I think I found, I don't know if it was one of these pages, I found some repetition. But in these 2, I have not found it. But that's one thing I did find. You guys have 11 industry pages, different industries that you serve, 15 products pages. Your industry pages they're thorough and valuable, but a lot of your products pages need more content to be valuable for SEO. I would love to see use case landing pages that further break down your specific offerings in each industry. Like within food packaging, you could break down subpages on the process of printing on various food packaging materials and which printers and inks would be best, like printing on plastic, printing on glass, printing on flexible materials. So I think I found searches on that. And then I have a whole bunch of thoughts on the blog, but we'll get to that later. Do you have any questions about the stuff we talked about? Or do you? No?
Well, I think one thing, so the way our products is, we're actually about to go through a complete, because we're moving more towards e-commerce, so we're moving to Drupal from WordPress. And we are going to create a whole huge resource. There's no one everyone's afraid to put pricing and information in our industry.
Yeah.
We don't really care. And so our plan is to really just basically, because we start as an aftermarket, we feel as this like autonomous that, we sell equipment, but we have all of our competitors' inks and makeups, and we know all about our competitors' printers. Why not just put it on our website, and why not just put all their manuals and do comparisons?
That's great.
But what I was going to say is, like, under our products page, so we have like a specific page for just, industrial printers, and then each one has like high resolution inkjet printer. So, and so we felt like it was too many clicks to actually get to a specific printer page. And so...
Yeah, I mean, if you go to continuous inkjet, we only have one model. So there's kind of this in-between. So and then to view the product, you actually have to click again.
View product.
Right. So
some of them have maybe 3 or 5. But this being like one of the bigger focused products right here.
Yeah.
It's only one model.
Right.
So are we taking people along click just to get to?
I don't think so, because the architecture I think is pretty neat and it's not too many clicks. So if we were on the home page now, because the header is on the home page, same as we have here, there's 1 click to get to continuous and then 2 clicks to get to the page we're on right now. It's 2 clicks away. By the time you get to 3, I feel like that's too much. Unless it really is just a blog archive that's from years ago or something, I feel like that's fine. So no, I don't think it's too much because it fits within the page architecture very cleanly. So I'm fine with this.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
This isn't about SEO, it's more about e-commerce in general, so it may be off topic, but I've noticed that apps are getting more and more sophisticated and more capable of e-commerce. Fast food companies, for example, over the last 5 years have gotten a lot more sophisticated in the way that you can order food through them and save your favorites in one button. I mean, Domino's Pizza, I think you barely touch your phone and it brings a pizza. So Patricia and I were talking last week, and one of the things she said was that she didn't feel like her user base or her buyer base was necessarily that savvy about going to a website to buy things. So I floated the idea of instead, or in addition, building an app that might have useful functionality, which would be similar to your thought leadership idea. Make it useful to the user, a calculator or a manual or something like that, but also have some clicks where they could reorder ink or supplies while they're walking around on the floor of the manufacturing facility. Do you have any thoughts on when are apps more beneficial? When should we be thinking about desktop experience? How those play with each other, or is it still evolving? It may, like I said, maybe your range of expertise, but I'm guessing you have an opinion.
It's something I think about because it's a much higher level strategic marketing question because it involves creating something that could be viewed as a loss leader, like you're giving a huge amount of like resource information just so it's worth it for somebody to click download of an app in the App Store. But then you get a lot of power once people have downloaded your app, because then now you're on their mobile device and you can send them notifications, and you're kind of in their environment. It's very valuable in that sense. So if there's the passion to do a lot of education or provide a resource, it would be, again, like a big, long-term marketing play. It would be similar to creating like the best thought leadership resource on the internet for all kinds of things that are just related to inkjet, industrial inkjet printers. It would also be similar to creating, and this is something we do for a number of our clients, an entirely separate news website about, like, create the industry news website for your industry, just so you can sell them products through the advertisements on the side. So you're sort of owning the news. That's a similar idea to what you're saying, and it's power. We do that for Logitech, for instance, and it's been tremendously effective. We just created the industry news website for video conferencing. It's helped that division grow to $1 billion division. So you can do that, but Logitech poured a lot of resources into that for a lot of years before it started returning on the investment. So I think that's the risk. That's the risk, is that people use it for the free stuff, and you have to really dedicate a lot of team and resources to making a whole app.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit intimidating to me. Even the industry news website is easier than the app idea to me, unless you have a super technical staff that can support an app.
One of the other ideas we had was if you could put a Bluetooth in the equipment, the phone connects the equipment, and diagnostics or low ink levels. Now all of a sudden I've got a notification on my phone that there's a low ink level. It's pretty easy to click and buy some new stuff.
That's a fantastic idea that, is going, I think, well beyond the scope of the presentation, but I love that.
Sorry.
Love that, yeah. So let's go to Ulsta, right? Did we say everything about inkjet? Yeah, I think we did, yes, okay. So for Ulsta, okay, there's good SEO on Ulsta as well. 51 links. There could be more, maybe around 150 would be good for you guys. Title tags are pretty good. Tanker sales and leasing, tank trailer parts distributor, very clear. Landing page suggestions. So you have a lot of product pages. You have service pages that describe every facet of the business, and sub-service pages. I would love to see problem and solution pages that lay out common problems that your potential clients are faced with that would lead them to need new parts or new trailers. And then you guys really need geo-targeted landing pages. Unless I didn't find them, that's one of the most important things for you guys.
Why do you say that, Evan?
Why do I say that?
Yeah.
Because I think because you're international, so every non-US country, I think, needs a page within Latin America and the Caribbean. And also any major cities that you serve, I think, would be a game for a page. Because a lot of people type in chemical trailer for sale, and then the next thing they type in is Houston. So all those searches, you don't have a good opportunity to rank. And this is a fairly localized search landscape you're in. That's why I say it's your major opportunity.
Could those pages be created as hidden pages and not linked from? And so from the SEO standpoint, your rankings boost, and they link back, but they're not in the hierarchy?
So that's possible. It's called orphan pages when they're only there for Google, but they don't have and they're not linked in the header. They don't have a parent there. I don't usually recommend it because you can bury it somewhere. You can just have a resources section. That most people are not going to just click resources when they want to buy a tanker trailer part or whatever. Yeah. And then under resources, you have a whole separate page that is just there for all of your SEO pages. And it's valuable if people click on it, but that's your visible to Google house for the pages. I think it's better to do that than to create pages that are disconnected, because Google gets the sense they're not important. And you want Google to feel they're important. So I'll leave that there. Let's go to Savage.
What do you mean by that?
I'm sorry?
But Google feels are not important. I didn't understand.
Oh, so yeah, Google.
Sorry, yeah.
No, that's okay. It's maybe not obvious. Maybe I should have explained it better. If a page can't be found through the website, if you go to the homepage and you cannot find a page, Google, I think, reasonably says this can't be that important of a page. They're not featuring it at all.
What do you mean? You got to click to get to the page, you mean, right?
Right. If you have to click 5 different times to get to a page, Google also says that's barely valuable. If you can't find it at all through any number of clicks, Google would not be likely to promote it unless it was linked to pretty heavily from the outside. So everything I'm saying is basically Google being pretty smart and logical, ultimately.
So you got every place where you go to the next page, you gotta make sure you get a page. You know what you mean?
Yeah, well, yeah. Google wants to see a page for every keyword that you would like to rank for. A really good page. That's the goal. So Savage Brands. Let's go there.
Oh, so many problems.
Okay. Well, it doesn't look like it's like SEO is a big part of what you guys have thought about. You do have 125 unique links, which is great.
Winning on something.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Obviously, like, you're known, people have linked to it, so that's a good thing. I don't know if any your clients ever link to you. Is that a part of what you guys do? Do you ever have clients link?
Not that I know of.
Okay, well, you guys have a good amount of links, that's the important part. That's wonderful. Title tags are not customized for SEO. I'd love to see something simple on the homepage. Top branding and communications agency in Houston, TX. Firm is also used along with agency. Agency is usually used among people that want to, they're higher level and will spend more. So agency is a little more valuable than the firm, I find, but both are valuable. There's very few SEO landing pages on the site. There's some case studies under Savage Work, and I'd love to see service pages for what you do for your clients based on all the categories I see under Discover, Create, Solve, Visualize, Communicate, and Win. And then industry pages, all the different industries you work with case studies linked in there would be great. And then problems and solutions would be great for you. Things like poor attrition rates, mixed marketing messaging, low lead conversion. There's all kinds of problems that you guys could talk about how you solve, or you're the solution to. Let's go to Aspire Fine Homes next.
Missing evidence?
Did you go to?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Stabilis.
So
It might be probably under Prometheus.
So that should have been redirected as well.
At 301 or 404?
301. I got it all under 409A.
I know I have that, so I did that. Maybe I just didn't print it or something like that. But let's look at Prometheus.
No, don't look at Prometheus. Look at Stabilis.
Stabilis
Energy.
Oh, you were serious. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Leader in turnkey LNG solutions. Is that what people would type in? Turnkey LNG, or is that brand?
That's pretty much turnkey LNG solutions.
Okay.
Or a virtual pipeline.
A virtual pipeline, okay. So here we have different services, essentially. Okay. Let's just see what the title tags look like on these pages. Stabilis Energy. So it doesn't look like there is customization of title tags. That's the first opportunity. Is each of these pages looks like it just copies the page name directly. Case studies looks like these are like industries that you're talking about, and that's powerful. But I would again make sure to customize the title tags for each of these industries. And then this could be an opportunity. This could be a site that has different use cases. So there are a lot of like situations people find themselves in where they don't know that they need services like yours, or is there just a lot of people that know exactly what they need and they type it in? Is there both?
There's both.
Okay. So you'd need pages for each of those. It could be problems and solutions pages, it could be FAQ pages, or you could break down each of these into the different reasons that people need LNG.
Well, there's verbiage below each one, or there used to be.
Verbiage? Yeah, I don't see verbiage. Yeah, actually there's
There was.
Oh. So it looks like it's just missing words, yeah.
Yeah, there was words.
Okay.
Well, no, there was words. Somebody.
They disappeared. I don't know. We had some squirreliness yesterday with fonts.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, that's obviously important to look
I don't know what
at.
happened other than Yvonne called to get it fixed.
Gotcha. Okay, news. What I'm seeing, I see a very recent news article, but it's a sort of a company announcement, which is different than a thought leadership post. And from a month earlier, I see the same thing. So it doesn't look like there's any outward-facing, Google-focused thought leadership content or SEO content. So it'd be wonderful to talk about things happening in the industry, applications of your product in different industries, or of your services in different industries.
A big case studies, you know.
Case studies would be good if and only if...
The news would be different than what's on investor relations coming
all
up.
financial. Yeah. So,
Edgar.
right, absolutely. So news may be doing its job just fine. And let's see, news, SEC filings, governance, company events. Okay, but there's nothing that's like industry news. That's more what I'm talking about. That would have keywords in it that would attract potential customers. Yeah, so that's the way I would think about it. And I do have a sheet for you, so sorry, I don't know why I didn't print that yet.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay, so let's go to Aspire. Okay. So, backlinks, 71 backlinks. And it's a pretty competitive area, so if you were to do it by links alone, you would need like 120 more. But I would do it through content, not links, because links will happen more organically. I didn't see landing pages. I would love to see something like home style landing pages for people that type in modern home builder, Houston, or any different style of home that people would type in. I've looked a lot at the custom home like SEO industry in the Bay Area. First of all, a ton of leads come from SEO, which is great. But you're looking for like the important adjectives, you know, custom, luxury custom home builder, top rated, things like that.
We're only in specific areas of neighborhoods. Like we're only in like 3 neighborhoods now. It's going to be 5, and it's going to be 7. We're distinctly only in these neighborhoods. We do not go all over Houston, right? We don't go to the north part. We don't go to the south part. We go north central.
I see.
So that's the
Is
question.
there something that says neighborhoods on here?
Yes, I do have something.
Where?
Properties for sale right now.
Yeah, because I didn't see neighborhoods.
No. Go to the right, that little tickle bar.
Oh, that's okay.
Added. Yeah, I just got portfolio. I don't have neighborhoods. The neighborhoods, I think, are only coming up in properties for sale right now.
I see. So having a specific page dedicated to custom luxury homes for sale for each of those 7 is absolutely crucial, you know, to create. That goes without saying, that needs to be created. And then on each page, think about the fact that someone that types that in is looking to be sold to. They want to buy what you're offering. So you would obviously have a gallery of photos. That's the most important thing in custom homes. People need to be wowed. It's all about the feeling of it. And then a little bit about the process. And then, you know, if they want to look at a case study, that'd be great. But that's where you start tracking on the back end their user journey, going through page after page, and then seeing what a successful user journey looks like. It may be that they search for one of those really transactional keywords, then they view a case study, then they go to About Us, and then they go to Contact. But you'd want to see what that looks like so you can optimize that on the back end. And mostly you want to think of every tiny little variation of a search term that's so clear that in that area they want to buy a custom home. And I'm not sure what price point you're at, but some of those words indicate different price points.
Should I indicate price points like on my site, just to
think so.
some of the riffraff?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, probably.
Starting at?
Yeah, starting at would be great because...
Did you say eliminate the riffraff?
I did. I'm not very PC, I'm very sorry.
Nobody has a certain
We'll
price
take all the
point.
riffraff business you want.
No problem.
Yeah.
I'll send it your way.
We love the
He has a
riffraff.
certain price point, but he doesn't have anything below a certain price point.
Oh, yeah.
So he should communicate that on here somehow.
Yeah, absolutely, because otherwise he's going to hear from all those people that are just wasting administration's time.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Is there a value to having the riffraff show up so that it boosts your ranking? Does that affect that or not?
Now, there's a negative value to it because people arrive and then get the sense they're in the wrong place and leave after a short period of time, lowering your ranking. So, and if you think about it, it works to Google's purposes very well because then, you know, people are finding what they want quicker when they lower the rankings of things that are not, you know, like not on the right price point. So you want to help people find the right page. Thank you for the question.
Can I ask you?
Yes.
YouTube's owned by Google, right?
Yes.
So if you put stuff on YouTube, will that help your ranking?
Only if it's a search that somebody would want a video as a result. Custom home builder is probably not one, but there could be something related to custom homes for which a video would be a good idea.
Do a drone video of one of your homes.
That would be that would make the page better. but it wouldn't necessarily show up as a video search result. But if it was like home tour or something, I have a feeling Google would say tour is a visual phrase, and so they might throw a video on there. And if you see a video on the first page for a search term you want to target, then it's fair game to make a video.
What about if you're saying apartments for rent and each apartment community a tour on the YouTube?
Well, it's a great idea for the user experience, so I think it's a great idea. I don't think it's going to boost, well, it'll boost your SEO to the extent that it engages people more. Yeah, I just don't think it's like a direct, you will get a higher ranking because you have a video, because I don't think a video shows up in the search results for apartments for rent plus location. At least I don't think. You can always type it in. Yeah. Yes?
Evan, so like Aspire Homes, who's essentially delivering something or trying to sell something in a specific area, what is the value of having a landing page for each one of those areas versus, like I know something we do is just have, like, you know, we serve Houston, but on several pages at the bottom, it like names out every single neighborhood that we are, you know, we particularly serve, like River Oaks or Bel Air or you know, things like that.
So it's better to do that than not do that, but the real value is to make all those into a clickable link that goes to a separate page for the neighborhood, because some people are searching for specific neighborhoods. So it would be better if you find that anyone would search for, you know, in-home care plus the neighborhood, then you need a page for it. You know, if you want Google to like you maximally. Okay. We're almost finished. Let's go to CPAP. Okay, so 808 unique do follow backlinks, which is just a great number. Not something you need to actively think about, although I know there's a tremendous amount of competition, but you also have the domain that's so authoritative. Generally, the meta titles are customized for SEO. I think I found some that I said there could be a little more thought to it, but generally it's well done. And the FAQ pages were mainly the thing that I thought there could be something, an innovation there, and we talked about that. The blog is really what I want to focus on, and we'll focus on that later, but now I'm wondering if we're going to have time. So this is the blog, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I saw this like 2 days ago.
This morning we're rolling out Fastly. We're moving off Encapsula. I'm guessing that's what's happening.
Okay, but I saw this 2 days ago too.
Okay.
What did you just say?
It's off topic.
All right, yeah, that's majorly bad for us. We can't do that.
Okay, I'm glad that I could bring it
Thank
to
you.
light.
How was it worth the trip?
Good, good. So you'll notice that in the blog, there's keywords in every title, which is great. Best travel CPAP machines is the reason the word the and then potentially reviewed and compared is there, other than it makes it read better. But this is just a vehicle for ranking for this keyword, best travel CPAP machines, possibly if you add reviews. Now let's see if when I click on this, I get what I want. And we don't have to click to know what we want. Let's think about it first. If I want a travel CPAP machine, and I want to know what the best are, reviews and comparison, I probably want a comparison chart or a group of reviews, but at the end of that, I want a simple way to, in 2-3 minutes, I know which model I want. It's an 8-minute read, that's probably a good thing. The lack of image I know we know about, so let's skip that. And then we have a conversational opening. Too much of that gets annoying, I think, like on recipes when there's like a 500 words before the recipe, you know. But I actually think it's helpful here, although I'm probably skimming at this point, so you got to think about these skimmers. I'm just looking for basically this.
There you go.
Now, this it could be organized. It could look a little neater. I want more lines and color differentiations, but generally it's the right idea. I like this. So you've got 4 models compared. The only thing I would want to see here is like star ratings, like, because I just want to like be told what the right machine is for my needs. If I'm someone, and I'm basing this on having done this a lot, not CPAP, but you know, situations like this. And then, right, I want each one reviewed individually. And I basically want you at the end to tell me the best one for each one. I want a summary at the end. So there's a lot here. and right, the lack of images, but
And are those individual pages for each one, or just like part of this one blog would have the?
ideally, there's an individual page for people to type review, some ethics transcend. It looks like there is a page for it. So that's good. That's part of like an integrated family of SEO pages that is very helpful. So it's really long, and I'm going to need to skim it. That chart is where the vast majority of the value is. So I just want the chart I want a little bit more work in the chart to make it like a phenomenal chart with the stars and then the recommendation at the end. Like, I like to summarize at the end. I guess our review is there's not a summary at the end, because at a certain point there's so much information I just need to be told. So that's the one other sort of
So what
critique.
does it say in that last section?
I think
Our
this last
review.
section is just for the entire page.
No, I think
No.
they did one for each product.
They had that for each product.
Okay.
It doesn't choose one for you.
Hey, Johnny,
Yes.
the 4 or 5 that you're reviewing there, do y'all sell all of those? And so you're really just, you're
You don't
capturing the customer, you're just.
Oh, you don't care, yeah?
You don't want to recommend
Well,
one.
there's a few other things going on. Like we're in a your money, your life space. So high E, where expertise, trust, authority is really important for us on a medical product. Another factor is, if we start saying, well, buy this one, then we have like cutoff or supplier issues. And so we have a philosophical difference. We tend to go real long form on content and just kind of track persona engagements to see whether that makes sense or not. I think that the call out of the chart up makes sense for the skimmer, but our approach, and we're testing and adjusting that, has been we're going to go long form and then kind of suck up instead of go minimal and go down. Just the way we produce content, it works.
Right, well, I agree with that. That's not a philosophical difference to me. The only thing I would do is give the skimmer what they want immediately at the top.
I agree.
So they don't, that's the only thing, is to make the chart more just simple and attractive and, get to the point. Yeah.
Another brittleness is, say tomorrow another machine drops, right? It can make our blogs non-evergreen, or like adding that is less modular. So, I mean, we need to get there, but we don't have like the infrastructure to say, okay, this dropped. So we're gonna change these sections of these 18 blog posts, and so that could be improved and should be. Ultimately, someone just wants the truth at this point in time. That's why they hit Google. But those are some of the design decisions that we're driving.
Got it. And then, do you guys have versus pages?
What's that?
Comparison pages.
Oh.
There's going to be a lot of CPAP machine type versus other CPAP machine type.
We do have some. We don't have all. And the reason there is this is about a year old, and we decided we were going to start on kind of the wider and go down. So that's another area where we think expanding makes sense.
Yeah, good. Okay, cool.
Hey, Evan?
Yes.
Quick question. What he's talking about on when a machine drops and changes the outlook of what his blog will look like, would that be something that you would then put in a year into the metadata and say, best machines for travel 2018? Then if something changes, he can do a new blog post where he just takes that transplanted, updated 2019. How does Google look at that? I know on the YouTube algorithm that pushes things up when the year is in. It does the same thing for the Google search?
Yeah, so you can't, that's a great question. So how do you update things that are year focused, which there's quite a lot of great keywords that are about 2019, 2020. First of all, any content you create after like July in a year should be called the next year. So in my company, everything has been 2020 for like a few months already, because by the time it ranks, it's going to be 2020. You don't want 2019 content that's sort of useless. Updating one long authoritative page is a valuable thing to do, and you would just write at the top, this page is continuously updated. Google looks at that and it gives it credit as like a news source, so that's a valuable thing to do. We often find there's a lot of value in just creating separate pages each year and then linking back to the previous years, because then you're creating your own little hub of content which has value in and of itself, because there's often links to the 2017, 2018, 2019, and then they all kind of link around to the 2020 version. So that can be another way of doing it, but updating one page is a simpler, more elegant solution. Okay, so let's finish off with Swagelock. And then we'll go to a break?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be brief.
It'll be brief, yeah, because we have a lot of material. So, for Swagelock, it's interesting because you guys are on a separate domain here, a subdomain, southeasttexas.swagelock, not even swagelock.com, but swagelock.solutions. It's kind of interesting because this subdomain is almost like a new website to Google. You're not getting all the power of Swagelock. You know, so it would be ideal if Swagelock were to change that, but it seems like that's probably a lost cause. Or
so this is our site on HubSpot, and then when you go to the e-commerce site, it jumps from this site to the corporate swagelock.com site where all the PIM and all that stuff is.
Right, yeah, that makes sense, okay. It's really the pages that are on your side that have a chance to rank for SEO.
Right.
And then I think for you guys, thought leadership content is valuable not just for attracting new folks, but for writing to past customers, current customers, prospective customers. Do you have a healthy email list at the moment?
Yeah, I don't know what healthy would be, but I think we have like about 10,000.
Oh yeah, I think that's healthy. I was going to say at least like a few thousand.
Yeah.
So 10,000 is pretty good. Yeah, because each company could be of good value. So what kind of content do you send? Because Swagelock Northern California sends one a week.
Yeah, we're not even close to that.
Okay. Well, do you send one a quarter?
Probably like, probably 4 or 5 a quarter.
4 or 5 a quarter, so one a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that.
Something like that. That to me is pretty good, but how good is the content? Because I think the thought leadership content is very valuable, separate and apart from the SEO, possibly more than the SEO. Because there's very interesting applications in different industries, obviously in petrochemical, but just totally different uses for each valve and fitting and tubing for different industries. So talking about these from the perspective of the person who's going to influence the decision maker, the buyer, I think is really the key.
No, I think we're missing the mark there, and it's some stuff that we could work on to improve for sure.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't see as much there in terms of, there's a bunch of service and product landing pages, but yeah, something like applications, blogs, or pages, I think that's what we do for Swagelock Northern California. Probably the same thing would be useful. It has to be geo-targeted, obviously.
Right.
Okay. All right, so we should take
We don't really need a break.
We don't need a break, great, okay.
We can go to 11:45.
Okay, sounds good.
If you need to sneak out, just do it fast.
Sounds good. All right, so let's go back to the presentation, and we're going to skip a bunch of things because there were so many great questions. So I basically told you what thought leadership SEO is. What does it mean? It means publishing 2 articles per week every week that are basically the best answer to the search query that somebody has published that's been put online. That's the ideal circumstance that you could have. If you do that, you're going to see that your site is nailed to the top of the search results. The difference between sort of having like an intern publish the blog because young people know blogs or something like that, I don't think this is a room of people that would make that mistake, but the difference between publishing okay content and great content is just enormous. This is just an illustration of the fact that you will get a little bit of a boost from just blogging. Okay content, standard, good spelling and grammar, but it's not really changing anyone's mind. There's no custom graphics. There's no editorials from an expert, real analysis in there. But the boost you get from high quality content can increase the business's revenue dramatically. Yeah.
How do you recommend us finding the avenues for the good, really, really good content?
Finding avenues for it?
In other words, finding the material or coming up with the material or having it written, 2 per week is a lot.
Yeah, 2 a week is a lot.
Right.
Well, there's... I'm sorry?
It's a division of your company.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So there's 2 options. You can insource it or outsource it. Insourcing it would mean that you probably have like 2 or 3 people. 3 would be ideal, but I'm conscious of what like a salary would be. You would have somebody that's the industry expert. And then I think you must have somebody else that's usually not the expert who can do the writing and whose entire job is to publish multiple blog posts a week. The other person's job is to set up an editorial calendar and never making a mistake of just writing about interesting things. Always write to a keyword, otherwise it's got no purpose for SEO. And then if you make it interesting and relevant within that, and now you have industry news that can be shared in email marketing and LinkedIn, and you have SEO landing pages, so it's just a combination of everything you want. And then, so that person would maybe do keyword research and editing, and then the other person, and it could be outsourced there, is an illustrator. or they create technical illustrations, or just any illustration, because those make such a big difference in engagement. Somewhere in there, one of those three people also needs to carefully track the results and see what revenue came directly attributable to those blog posts. See which blog posts or pages brought the most revenue and do more around those keywords and less around things that haven't worked. So measuring results is absolutely crucial. And getting all those things in-house is difficult. That's why outsourcing exists. That's why you see thought leadership marketing firms. That's what I do. So that's basically my sales pitch is when I basically say outsource and we'll recruit an expert, and we do that. Some companies say, like I'm guessing this is what CPAP does, they say, let's bring it in-house because long-term we want to own that talent. I like the idea. What I think is best, trying to think of as objectively as I can, is to hire an outsourced firm first, and they show you the process, and then slowly train your team to take it over after 2 or 3 years. That to me is a successful outcome, and many of our clients have done that, and I think it's very, very wonderful circumstance. So yeah, that's the way I think of it. Now you could just say, I'm not going to use SEO to build my company, but if you're going to use SEO to build your company, this is the way that you have to do it. And if you think about it, it makes sense. Why would Google promote a site that just sells when Google is an advertising company? They may as well have you advertise with them. That's how they make money. So it makes a lot more sense to give them exactly what users want so that they promote you. But to do that, you have to put forth the effort, which to me is a lot less expensive than a lot of other advertising or marketing methods. This is a bunch of hard work, but people do it for a living, or like they are told specifically to do it. Whether you insource it or outsource it, it ends up being a lot less expensive. I mean, like our pricing model is just the model of paying 7 people's salaries, and they're each working on usually 3 clients, and then putting profit on top of that. That's the whole model. It's just paying specialist salaries, an analyst, an editor for one thing, keyword research, an editor for thought leadership, somebody that actually writes the subject matter, the expert. So, does that answer? Okay, thank you. So, when I talk about writing great content, what makes something thought leadership? I am talking about certain characteristics, and I blank this because there's just a lot of information on the slide. So, what actually makes something into a piece of thought leadership as opposed to a standard piece of content marketing, and again, there's a big difference, is a few things. One of them is writing about big picture topics. When you have forecasts, when you talk about the future of your industry, as we get to the end of the year, it's great to look back on the year and say what happened in the industry. Anything big picture tends to feel more like thought leadership. Whether you are the largest company in your industry or far from it, when you create the industry guide or the industry forecast, you are viewed as the leader of the industry. So that can have people ascribe thought leadership to you is when you do that. Another thing, the second characteristic that makes something into thought leadership is when there's original research or sometimes exclusive interviews done. So you could potentially hire a research company, which back in the 90s, if you hired Gartner or something, it'd be like $150,000, which was a lot back in the 90s, to commission your own research study. Nowadays, it's about $15,000 to commission a research study in most industries, depending on technical. And there's online research companies that will do that for you. And then you get pie charts and statistics and all kinds of things that you can publish and distribute and gets links and is viewed as very authoritative. Yes?
We also find that you have a ton of data in your own company.
Yeah.
That is research if you just package it
right.
in a good way.
Exactly. Package it in statistics and percentages and charts and graphs, suddenly people respect it a lot more. So that's the second characteristic. Interviews can work extremely well too. It's one of the best ways to get referrals from people you otherwise would not get referrals from. So if there's someone, an architect, an engineer, an attorney, whatever it may be, that would be a good class of people to get referrals from, then do an interview series with them about what is good within your industry related to what you do. What are best practices related to what you do? Get their opinion. And then they are being essentially honored on your website. You often build good business development relationships that way. We've done that for many of our clients, and it works incredibly well to do business development alongside great original content. So having a really strong authorial voice is the third characteristic of thought leadership. When you state things as, your guide, your 2020 guide to, or the authoritative study of, or whatever, people tend to look more. Now, I'm not talking about like BuzzFeed nonsense superlatives or something like that. It needs to feel fitting to the brand and to the industry. But when you use stronger language that is not cliched language, it makes quite a big difference. There's an article we wrote, and it was in, I'm trying to think the field. It was a co-location of data centers, and it was something like, why building your own data center is a terrible idea. And what was powerful about that title, and the reason that it sparked a bunch of new clients for them, is the word terrible. Now, obviously, it's easy to go negative with a high resonance emotional word like that, but certain words are boring and certain are more interesting, and you can usually just test it with your brain and say, is this a more interesting title? If you have a boring title, a lot of times people won't even click. So that is a very important thing. The fourth attribute, yes?
What are your thoughts on whether to attach the thought leadership piece to the company itself or an individual person within that company, like an expert?
Yeah, that's a great question. So usually we ghostwrite it on behalf of one of the executives or a salesperson that is pretty secure within the company, someone that we really think is going to be around, because then they can share it on LinkedIn in a more genuine way. And also, a lot of the sales process takes place when someone reads something that they really respect and then sees someone's face next to it, and then there's a little blurb that says, so-and-so is, COO of the company, contact them here. Tiny mini bio like that, click on it, and then suddenly you have a question that turns into a sales conversation. So, thank you for the question. So the fourth attribute of thought leadership is, I'm trying to think which one I want to talk about next. It's writing to the decision makers. This is one of the most important things I'm going to say today, is that every keyword you target in your titles needs to be geared towards the people that make the decisions in the company. So that means you want to target keywords that are only for serious searchers. So one of the best examples I can give is in the wealth management world. We work with a number of financial firms and some wealth management groups. And when we write about wealth management, we pretty much always are going to write about gifting and estate taxes. The reason we write about that is gifting and estate taxes is a topic of zero interest to, 98, 99% of the population of the United States. But the people that are interested in the estate tax and not getting hit with a death tax and gifting to your kids in smart ways are people that are wealthy enough to need a wealth manager. So you're writing to the right audience. A wealth manager would never write about, at least a high-end wealth manager working with high net worth individuals. It's not going to write about living on a budget or something like that. That would be the, sort of the opposite group that they're trying to target. So targeting to the interests that are going to bring the right customers is absolutely key. And then insight versus analysis is the fifth. So, insight and analysis versus information. So you never want to just give people information like your Wikipedia. What makes something interesting is when you basically take a law that was passed or a situation that someone, a use case, whatever it may be, and you analyze it and say, this is why this would matter to you, potential customer, or someone within my industry. When you talk about how something is going to affect somebody's life, that is what makes it interesting. It's the analysis. So we have a rule for all our writers within our company that at least 70% of every article needs to be analytical in nature, and at most 30% can be informational. So that's very important. The sixth and final attribute that makes something into thought leadership, and by the way, if you have one or two of these, you'd be in good shape. Having all six would be a bit much for one piece of content, is storytelling. So people react very, very well, and actually listen with a different part of their brain when you tell a story as opposed to lecturing. So if I ask you guys in 2 years what the maximum number of characters within a title tag is, which I mentioned briefly before, probably almost nobody would remember. But if, does anyone remember? Seven, yes. But if someone said, hey, did you ever meet a guy whose college admission essay got published by Columbia or something? You guys would remember that. That's why I tell a story at the beginning and at the end of my presentation, because it makes everything in the middle more memorable. It sort of deepens the channel. It's a different part of the brain than the one that listens to lectures, because that's just fact sorting and prioritizing. So if you can storytell within an article, meaning you're using the first person, going into an anecdote that happened in a case study or with a client or something like that, it can make certain types of articles much more potent. It's sort of an advanced level of thought leadership when you can engage people with a story. So those are the 6 types of thought leadership. There's all kinds of examples, but to save time, we're going to skip the examples. And we will go to building trust. So the difference between publishing twice a month and 8 times a month, this is a good example of it. It is not surprising to double your traffic in a year and a half if you already have a decent amount of monthly traffic. By decent, I mean 10,000 plus visitors. Whereas if you publish twice a month, you're going to notice a little rise in traffic, but it's not going to be that significant. It may be like a 5% or 10% rise. Yeah?
How do you measure your traffic you have? I'm sorry, that's a stupid question.
No, not at all. So we use Google Analytics. Google Analytics is free, enterprise-grade analytics software. Pretty much every company in this room probably uses it.
So we can tell how much traffic we have currently?
Yeah. And not just that, but a lot of other things.
So how much is normal for any particular company? Is there a standard?
There's not a standard because it really depends on what the audience looks like, but a website with like a good amount of traffic in a B2B industry would be, like over 10,000 visits a month. I would think like CPAP has like over 50 or 100,000 visits a month, I'm not sure.
A little north of that.
A little north of that, okay. So that would be like a industry leader that's doing tons of SEO and stuff like that. But we have certain clients that are enterprises that have like 6,000, 7,000 visits a month because they're just selling something highly specific. So it doesn't really matter. It matters the conversions and the revenue more than anything.
Traffic is not revenue, remember?
Yeah.
So we should be able to track the traffic, how much revenue we're deriving from the traffic, right?
Yeah. That's the key. And you'll find most people in marketing will say that's very hard or nearly impossible. It is very hard, but it is not impossible, and you just need the person that's going to say, here's how we're going to do it. Because you can take a guess that's educated enough that it can really inform future decisions. And to me, it's not that hard. It's just a whole bunch of work to connect things and to make sure you ask questions of the people that come to the website. Like, for instance, Google stopped 6 years ago, something like that. Google stopped allowing you to see which keywords people arrived at your website, having typed in. However, if you have lots of pages on your website, different landing pages, each landing page is probably connected to, 1 to 4 keywords that are all pretty similar. So you have a sense of what people typed in anyway. If they came to your homepage, they probably typed in your brand name. So you can really see which keywords people type in and make intelligent decisions based on that if you have enough landing pages. So that's one way to get around that problem. And there's probably like 5 or 6 problems that marketing people will talk about why it's very hard to track SEO. But doing that is incredibly valuable. I find it fascinating that people are often willing to spend 10 times on SEM, pay-per-click marketing through Google, what they are on SEO, because it's trackable only, not because it's more effective, because I think we all know anecdotally that many of us skip the ads and just go to the organic, and yet people are spending so much more on the ads than the organic. I just find that fascinating. It's because people are not putting in the effort to measure properly.
So is there ever too many keywords put in for too many landing pages?
I don't think so, no.
Can you, because you don't always know, can you guess? And you put in more than,
Well, you can guess. If you have a good intuitive feel, so this is very advanced, and we don't let our editors do this until they've been with the company a few years. Even if it doesn't autofill, if you get the sense that one person a month who could be worth $50,000, $100,000 to a B2B business would type in a certain keyword, then we'll allow them to try it. Because again, you have to make investments and see what works, and not all of them are going to work. Usually just a few landing pages bring the majority of the revenue. It's like that rule that exists in many systems of production. Few produces the most.
So having many does not matter though.
Now, having many is good because then you just have many different doorways through which different people can walk in around different subject areas. You don't want a lot of keywords per page. That's not good. You want to target like 1 or at most like 1 plus a few variants of that 1 keyword per page, because Google wants a very focused, clear page that answers the user's question. But if you could have 10,000 pages on your website, that would be better. We have clients that we produce 20 articles a week for. So.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So with what you're talking about with 8 times a month, does it matter if it's spread out between 8 different times a month, or like over the course of the month, or what if you do all 8 in 1 week and then don't do anything for the next?
I don't really know the answer to that because we haven't really tried just doing 8. So I don't have like data behind my answer to that, but my feeling is that doing it consistently is better than doing all at once, but I don't have the data on that.
bleed it out.
I would instinctually agree with that. So this is the site I was talking about that we do for Logitech, and what's cool about this is Google values news sites so much. So if you were to do this bold strategy of create a news site for your industry just to become the advertiser that refers business to your own company, what's cool about it is that Google really loves news websites, to the point where they started putting news websites, you have to submit to Google News, there's a few steps you can take, on the mobile homepage. I don't know, it was a year ago or something like that now, that when you just go to google.com on your mobile phone, now they force you to see news, which is pretty, I mean, it's increased news clicks tremendously. That's obviously important to them for monetization. This is the difference for the Logitech site in terms of the traffic that they were at, and then this is, it doesn't look like, but it's 40% growth that came after Google did that. So if you decide that your industry needs a news website that you're going to create and sort of own the news, again, you'd have to be very bold to do it, but it's something that a number of companies do. It's very valuable. So it's just
What's something like that going to cost?
Well, we charge the same thing that we charge all clients for that, because we're just doing it on a different website.
Yeah, price.
Oh, it would be, I don't know, $115,000 for the year, something like that. We just have to design the site. That's the only second thing, but that probably wouldn't, it'd probably be like $10,000 or something. Okay, links and press. Being cognizant of time, we're going to 11:45, is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's skip a bunch of this because we know links. I've said everything important I need to say. So conversion is the final part that I said in the beginning I would talk about. Right. Now, if people are going to buy what you sell, whether they came from SEO or not, after visiting your website, if they're going to make the decision, then typically they need to trust your website. That's one big thing. They need to trust your company based on what they see in the website. They need to feel like your company serves the purpose or caters to the very specific purpose that they have. People don't typically have a general reason for visiting your website. They have a very specific problem or need. So you need to say, we cater to that problem or need, we're the best at it, and here's some examples of how we're good at it. Those are some of the things that a website needs to do in order to psychologically appeal to visitors and cause them to ultimately buy from you. And again, this could be as part of an RFP process, doesn't have to be SEO. Before any of that matters though, people have been browsing the web since, I don't know, like 1996, like in a pretty popular way. So there's some coded, like hard-coded habits people have. They require that there is a top header bar that usually just goes like this. Usually has like home, about, services, portfolio, contact, some version of that, maybe a blog, and then on the top right there's often social media or contact information. If you choose not to put your contact information on the top right-hand side of your header, you will miss out on any spontaneous phone calls that you get. You may not want any spontaneous phone calls, but if you do want them, that is the way to get them. People tend to glance up to the right when they want to call or contact somebody. An email address could go there as well. Also, in the world of conversion optimization, icons are crucial because icons are kind of like little pictures that allow you to know something before you even read a single word, because they're a visual way of knowing something. So it's very valuable to have icons as a way of illustrating your competitive advantage, who you are as a company, something like that. You'll see that it's a very high conversion thing to do, and you'll see it on all kinds of enterprise websites that are good at marketing. It's also important to look at the amount of white space you have on your website, because white space is what brings attention to things. So if you have a nice icon or a phone number you want to focus on or something, I think of it as similar to high-end retail. If you go into like a Gucci or a Prada store or something like that, you're going to see like a pair of shoes on a stand with a spotlight on it, and it's very clear that that pair of shoes looks very valuable. It's the same thing putting white space around an icon or a small bit of information. So your web design firm should very, very consciously think about which elements it's emphasizing, and ultimately it's trying to decide what the user is going to do before they even get on the website. Bring attention to whichever area they're interested in, they choose. And then on that page, you may say, I have a certain journey I want people to go on. I want them to read about how we serve this industry. Then I want them to read a case study. Then I want them to go to the About page to read about us. And then the contact page. And then I want to get a form, put it into my sales system, and that's the journey I'm looking for. You can predetermine that based on your web design. Establishing trust can be done in a very simple way. Often placing logos of blue chip clients you've worked with, awards you've won, industry accreditations, associations, whatever it may be. It's a quick way to piggyback on all the trust that people feel for a brand, which is often housed right in their logo, right away. But that's a way to introduce someone to your service and have them trusted quickly. You could also put things like your company values, your company story, pictures of employees. I find as far as pictures go, real pictures of people make a huge difference, and a lot of companies avoid doing it and they use stock photos because it's easier. But the 25-cent stock photos really cheapen your brand tremendously because people have seen those same models on other websites and it really doesn't look good. So I would at least use expensive stock images. You can do ones where there's $50 an image or something like that rather than the 25-cent ones. As long as it is not something people have seen a lot before and it really fits the purpose of the page, it makes a tremendous difference in how people feel about your brand as far as the pictures. Specific needs. So you want to place on your website, essentially, use a consumer example here of a speech language tools company that basically calls out all the different conditions of the kids that their speech tools are meant to serve. And it creates an emotional association in the minds of the parents because they say, this company knows how to work with kids that have the same needs as my kids. And that's a powerful thing for every company, is to talk about the different use cases. I'm going to skip this and go right to the end. So I like to tell this story of the most important client that I've ever worked with. This is my wife. So my wife came to me, I don't know if it's like 4 or 5 years ago now. She was really upset, and I kind of knew what was happening. She said, "Hon, I don't think I'm ever going to get to do what I want in my career. I just think it's hopeless." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" But I knew what she was talking about. My wife has wanted to be a theme park designer since she was a little kid. She would go into Disney and Universal as a kid and come out and say, "One day, I want to create magic like that for millions and millions of people." Now, this is a very difficult thing to make a career out of. There's about 12 companies, most of them located in basically Burbank or Orlando, around Disney, Disney, that do all the design of all the theme parks in the world. And to get into one of those 12 companies, you have to be a brilliant engineer or audio animatronic expert or a brilliant artist. You have to be a technician, essentially. Someone that has big ideas and loves theme parks, which describes my wife a little bit better than a technician. That's a dime a dozen, unfortunately. So she knew that, and that's why she's upset, but I kind of had a crazy moment, and I was like, we're going to make you into a theme park designer. We're going to do it through SEO and thought leadership. She goes, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, just trust me on this. I have an idea. My mistakes are fairly high when I say something like that. The next day I went in and I created entertainmentdesigner.com, which I conceived of as a theme park news and design, theme park design news site. And there's a few others, basically, that exist, but there was none that focused on the design firms that make all the theme parks, and basically talked about news and updates of the designers behind the theme parks and all the new projects and who's designing them. So, created this, published 2 articles a week. We hired a freelancer to do the articles, someone who knew a lot about theme parks. And we just kept going, and pretty soon, the site started to rank. The SEO started to take hold, and it started to beat out some of the other industry news websites. But we also did this thing that I call the micro-celebrity interview technique. What that means is we find somebody who's famous in an industry, but not famous overall, who would like to be interviewed. Someone who is somewhat wanting of attention, let's say. We then send them an email that says interview request as the subject line, which is something that nearly everybody responds to. And in that request, we ask if we can go visit them in person and interview them. And we often build real relationships. Like I said before, you can build real business development relationships that way. In this case, we flew to Orlando from our home in Berkeley, and this was the first micro-celebrity interview. The micro-celebrities we chose were the principals, the people that had some ownership interest in each of the 12 firms. The idea, of course, is that I wanted her to get to know the people that would hire her one day. So we went and interviewed them as press, as this brand new kind of industry blog, news site. And they liked it, especially this guy. He was like Spielberg's roommate in college and designed. He's a very interesting guy with lots of stories, loves to talk. He designed like 5 rides in Universal Studios Orlando. I used to love as a kid. And so I think of him as a pretty cool guy. We just asked him all these questions. But when we were there sitting in the waiting room, I had this idea, and I said to my wife, why don't you ask him if we can refer him leads. Essentially, we're going to put a call to action on all the pages saying, if you're like an investor, you work at a theme park and you need a new ride design, we know all the best people in the industry. We'll refer, we'll refer a firm to you. On the other side, let's see if they will basically do something for us if we refer leads to them. And what we want him to do for us, what you should ask Peter, I said, is will you ask him in lieu of any sort of commission if he will make you a junior theme park designer on the project that you refer. Basically, will he show you the ropes? You don't need to be paid on the first project, maybe the second project. And she was nervous, but she asked. She said, we may be able to refer you leads. If we do, can you put me on the project to learn? And he goes, yeah, I can't see a problem with that. You know that these are really big projects and you'd be missing out on a revenue opportunity. And she goes, yeah, that's not what it's about. So he goes, okay. We were able to get interviews with 11 of the 12 companies. So now we really had a lot of people to refer leads to. And pretty soon, it took a little over a year, we became the largest site of the 4 sites, it's not that many, in the theme park industry news world. And we got all these leads because we were #1 for theme park designer and all different water park designer, things like that. So she got something like 2 leads a month. And from the 2 leads a month, I mean, the revenue possibilities were anywhere from like $300,000 for like a Gymboree installation or something like that, to she got a $6 billion lead for a theme park that's being built in China right now.
Wow.
When she got leads like that, she was like 25 at the time, something like that. She was a little freaked out, but she would just then refer it to the design firm that actually takes these projects on. And most didn't come to fruition, but some of them did. And the first one that did was an edutainment park in Qatar. And she got to be a theme park designer on that and go to a charrette and do all this creative thinking and to help to design a bunch of the rides at this edutainment park. She then got a job in the United Arab Emirates. A lot of the theme parks are in the Middle East and Asia. And then she got one in London, which is going to be one of the largest theme parks in the world that's coming out in the next few years. And she eventually landed a full-time job as a theme park designer at the largest theme park construction firm in the world. So basically within a few years, my wife was flying around the world designing theme parks from somebody that, was hopeless in the beginning. So that's the power of thought leadership and SEO and a lot of hard work. And that's what I have for you today. Yeah.
So I worked with him on the Jurassic Park ride at
Peter?
Yeah.
No way, that's crazy.
Isn't that weird?
That's incredible.
There you go.
Wow, that's a great ride too.
I worked in the art department
Oh, you did?
for the film, for
No
Lost
way.
World.
Oh, wow.
With the production designer, so the art team got to help with the conception of the ride and rebuild the set basically for the ride.
That's so
So I
cool.
just happened to be
Oh,
on that
wow.
crew.
I was there, I remember around the time it opened, the drop on that ride is serious, that's a good ride. Anyway, so what we didn't get to because of all the great questions is my thought leadership suggestions. I thought up 2 or 3 suggestions for every company in the room as far as what you should produce based on what you are producing or not producing. So I'm just going to hand out to you.
But you have it on those sheets.
Yeah, it's all right here on the sheet. It's just not going to have my supportive, oh, sorry. Wait, I'm sorry.
This is Chris.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
And Brandon will get yours.
Okay. So yes, we need to get. I'm sorry that I skipped you, but I do have a sheet. Okay.
I do.
Okay. All right. There you go. The rest. So yeah, and if anybody has questions about SEO, I do enjoy this stuff, so you can just ask me a question by email, and I'm happy to just shoot an answer back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Of course. This might not be that helpful because it's the parent company, but information. There you go. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Evan, thank you so much. Your dedication to giving value to everybody in this room is really impressive.
Thank you.
I am really grateful.
Thank you guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.